Arizona Territory, March, 1917. I'm putting this down by lamplight while I still remember the details clear. 40 winters have passed since that spring in the Arizona hills. Most men from those days are dust now, buried in ground that's harder than their lives ever were. But some stories don't rest easy in the grave. They sit in your chest waiting for you to finally give them words. This hand shakes when I write. Not from age, though, I got plenty of that. 71 years puts tremor in any man's fingers. No, it shakes because I'm remembering things I've carried quiet for too long. James Coulter's been gone near 20 years. Sheriff Hale died of pneumonia back in '03. Even Silas Kern, well, I'll get to him when the time comes. Point is, I'm about the last one left who saw it all happen, who stood close enough to witness and far enough to survive. My grandson asked me last week why I never told this story before. I said some things need distance, need perspective, need the kind of understanding that only comes when you've lived long enough to make your own mistakes and carry your own regrets. He's 17. Didn't understand. But he will. So I'm writing it down. The real story. Not the legend they tell in the saloons about the hermit and the ghost woman. Not the dime novel version where everything's clean and simple and good defeats evil with a fast draw and a white hat. The truth is messier than that. Always is. It started the year after the big drought, 1877 spring. I was 31 years old, working ranch hand for the Double J spread, hauling fence wire and supplies up to the homesteads scattered in those dry hills north of what's now called Redemption. Wasn't called anything back then, just a collection of buildings where the stage stopped twice a week. We called him the Hermit, or sometimes that silent bastard on the ridge. Didn't know his name was James Coulter. Didn't know he'd been a captain in the war. Didn't know that in a few short weeks everything would change. For him, for her, for all of us. I just knew he lived alone up on that ridge in a cabin that looked like it was held together more by stubbornness than nails. And I remember the dust that day. April, 1877. The dust in Arizona Territory doesn't just settle on things. It becomes part of them. Gets into the grain of the wood, the weave of your clothes, the creases of your skin. You taste it when you breathe. You feel it between your teeth when you eat. It's always there, patient as death, waiting to reclaim everything back to earth. That April morning, the dust hung in the air like the land itself was holding its breath. I was hauling a load of fence wire up the ridge road in the Double J wagon, 2 mules named Saul and Sarah pulling reluctant in the heat. It wasn't yet noon, but the sun already felt personal in its anger. Spring in Arizona means the cold nights are done, but the mercy of summer rains hasn't started yet. Everything in between is just waiting. Dry waiting. The cabin sat about a quarter-mile off the main ridge road. You wouldn't see it if you didn't know to look. Weathered pine logs, the same color as the hills around it. Single window facing west. Thin line of smoke from the chimney telling you someone was alive in there. I'd been delivering supplies to him for near 5 years. Once a month, sometimes twice. He'd leave a list and payment under a rock by the road. I'd bring what he needed, leave it on the porch, take the money. Sometimes I'd see him watching from the window. Sometimes I wouldn't. We'd exchanged maybe 30 words in 5 years, and most of those were obliged and much. The cabin had a shotgun leaning by the door. Always, every time I came, like he expected trouble or maybe hoped for it. Hard to say which. I pulled the wagon up that morning and saw him on the porch. He was whittling something from a piece of pine. Didn't look up when I stopped. Just kept working that knife slow and deliberate like he had all the time in the world, and planned to spend it alone. "Morning," I said. He nodded. Didn't stop whittling. I started unloading. Coffee beans, salt pork ammunition, the usual. He came down off the porch and helped, which surprised me. Usually he waited till I left. Up close you could see the years on him. He couldn't have been more than late 30s, but he had the eyes of someone much older. The kind of eyes that have seen things they can't unsee. Gray-blue like winter sky. Hair dark but starting to silver at the temples. He moved like a man who'd been a soldier once. Straight back, efficient motions. No wasted energy. "Wire's in good shape this time," I said, trying for conversation. "Obliged." That was it. 2 syllables. Then he turned back to the cabin. I noticed something then that I hadn't seen before. On the porch rail, half hidden behind a post, was an old military commendation. Frame was dusty, but the paper inside looked preserved. I could just make out the words, "Valor in Pursuit," and a signature at the bottom. He saw me looking. His whole body went still. Then he moved quick, grabbed the frame, took it inside. When he came back out, his face was different. Closed. Like a door slamming shut. "Anything else?" he asked, voice flat. "No, sir. That's the lot." He paid me. Exact change like always. Then he went back to his porch and his whittling and his silence. I climbed back on the wagon, clicked to the mules. As I was pulling away, I looked back. He was staring off toward the tree line to the west. Not at anything in particular, just staring. Like he was waiting for something he didn't want to come but knew would anyway. I remember thinking, that's a man who's running from something. I didn't know then he'd been running for 12 years. Didn't know he was about to stop. The ridge road wound down through scrub pine and saguaro cactus standing like sentinels in the dust. You could see for miles up there. All the way to the mountains west, all the way to the flatlands east, where the town was growing. Arizona Territory in 1877 was still raw, still unfinished. The war had been over 12 years, but the territory felt like it hadn't decided yet what it wanted to become. You had miners and ranchers and men running from the law or their past or both. You had opportunity and desperation living right next to each other. The town didn't have a proper name yet. Some folks called it Willow Creek for the dried-up wash that ran through it. Others called it Junction for where the stage routes crossed. Most just called it town and left it at that. It had the necessary buildings: general store, saloon, doctor's office, stage depot, a few houses. That was about it. The saloon was run by a Chinese woman named Mary Chen. She'd come over with the railroad workers, lost her husband to a dynamite accident, and decided to stay. Bought the saloon from a drunk who owed her money. Ran it clean and fair. Didn't tolerate trouble. The doctor was Samuel Wright. Late 50s, educated back east, came west for reasons he never explained. Good doctor. Quiet man. Had sad eyes like he'd seen suffering he couldn't fix. And there was the general store run by a widow named Patricia Hoffman. She knew everyone's business. Not in a mean way, just in that way storekeepers do when they're the hub everything passes through. I pulled the wagon into town around noon. The sun was high and mean. Heat made the air shimmer like water over the dirt street. Mary Chen was sweeping the porch of her saloon. She looked up when I passed. "Red," she called. She was the only one who called me that. Account of my hair used to be rust-colored before it went mostly gray. "Mary, you been up to see the hermit?" "Just came from there." She leaned on her broom. "He say anything?" "When does he ever?" She smiled slight. "Man's got a story. You can see it in how he carries himself." "Most men out here got stories," I said. "True enough, but most stories aren't that heavy." She went back to sweeping. I drove on to the livery. I didn't know it then, but that conversation would come back to me later. Mary had a way of seeing things before they happened, like she could read the shape of the future and how people moved through the present. The afternoon passed in ordinary ways. I unhitched the mules, brushed them down, made sure they had water and feed, stopped by the general store to settle accounts with Mrs. Hoffman. "How's business up at the Ridge?" she asked while counting out my payment. "Same as always." "He's still not talking." "He talks, just doesn't say much." She shook her head. "Shame. A man living alone like that isn't natural." I didn't argue. Wasn't sure I disagreed. But I thought about what Mary said, about stories being heavy, and I thought about that military commendation I'd glimpsed, and the way he'd moved when he thought I'd seen too much. Some men go into the wilderness to find something. Some men go there to lose themselves. I figured James Coulter for the second kind. I didn't go back up to the Ridge for 3 weeks, had other work, other deliveries. Life moved in its slow rhythm. Then came the day that changed everything. It was mid-afternoon, hot but not scorching, the kind of heat that makes you sleepy if you stand still too long. I was hauling a load of lumber for a homesteader up past Coulter's place. Had to pass his cabin to get there. As I came around the bend, I saw him. He was chopping wood out front, shirt off, suspenders hanging. Methodical. Bring the axe up, swing it down, split the log, stack the pieces. Repeat. The rhythm of it was almost hypnotic. Then I saw her. She came stumbling out of the tree line like death was riding her heels. Barefoot, filthy, barely wrapped in a piece of white cloth that might have been a curtain once or maybe a dress, hard to tell through the dirt and blood. Her arms were scraped raw, lips cracked and bleeding, hair matted with dust and twigs. But it was her eyes that stopped me cold. They looked like they'd seen things no person should ever see. James froze mid-swing, axe held high. His whole body went rigid. She took another 3 steps, then her legs gave out. She didn't scream, didn't cry out, just collapsed into the dust like a puppet with cut strings, and as she fell she whispered 2 words that I could just barely hear from the road. "Please, don't." James dropped the axe. It hit the ground with a thud that seemed too loud in the sudden silence. He just stood there, staring at her. His face had gone white. I pulled the wagon to a stop, started to climb down. That's when I saw his expression change. Saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before. Something that looked like recognition. Like he was seeing a ghost made flesh. He took a step toward her. She flinched but didn't pull away. Couldn't. She was barely conscious. The white cloth had slipped slightly. From where I stood I could see her back. Sweet, merciful God. Her back looked like someone had tried to write their name into her pain. Burns, welts, deep twisted scars that formed shapes. Letters, maybe, or symbols. The kind of marks that come from deliberate cruelty, not accident. James saw them too. I watched his face, watched the color drain even more, watched his hands start to shake. He stumbled backward, like he'd been hit. For a long moment he just stood there, breathing hard, looking at her like she was both the answer to a prayer and the confirmation of his worst nightmare. Then he moved, grabbed his shirt from the porch rail, wrapped it around her gentle as you'd handle a newborn, picked her up in his arms like she weighed nothing. His face as he carried her toward the cabin was something I'll never forget. It was the face of a man who'd been given a second chance he didn't think he deserved, and was terrified he'd fail again. I jumped down from the wagon, ran over. "Coulter? What happened? Who is she?" He didn't answer, just carried her inside. I followed to the door, stopped there. Wasn't sure if I was invited or intruding. He laid her on the cot by the back wall, covered her with a blanket, moved like he'd done this before, like his hands remembered something his mind was trying to forget. Then he spoke. First real words I'd ever heard him say. "Get Doc right. Don't tell anyone else." His voice was rough, like he hadn't used it for anything important in a long time. "She need law?" I asked. "She needs a doctor. Now." There was something in his tone that said arguing would be a mistake. I nodded and ran for the wagon. As I drove away fast as the mules would pull, I looked back once. James was standing in the doorway of his cabin, silhouetted against the dim light inside, still as a statue, watching the tree line like he expected something else to come out of it, something worse than death. I made the ride to town in half the usual time, nearly killed the mules doing it, but something about that girl's face, about those scars, about the way James had looked at her, it all said time mattered. Doc Wright was in his office, small building next to the general store, smelled like carbolic acid and old books. "Doc," I burst through the door. "Need you, now, up at Coulter's place." He looked up from the medical journal he was reading, took in my face, my breathing. "What's wrong?" "Woman, hurt bad, maybe dying." He didn't ask questions, just grabbed his bag. We went out to the wagon. As we drove, he finally spoke. "What kind of hurt?" "The kind that comes from people, not accidents." His jaw tightened. He'd been a field surgeon in the war. Seen what people could do to each other when they tried. "How bad?" "Her back looks like someone tried to brand her. with letters or symbols or I don't know what. Just bad, Doc. Real bad. He was quiet the rest of the way up the ridge. When we got to the cabin, James was waiting on the porch. He'd put a shirt on but hadn't buttoned it. His hair was wild. Eyes were different than I'd ever seen them. Alert, focused, almost fierce. "She inside?" Doc asked. James nodded. We went in. The cabin was sparse. One room, cot, table, 2 chairs, fireplace, shelves with supplies. Everything clean and ordered. A soldier's discipline showing through. She was lying on the cot, breathing shallow. The blanket was pulled up to her chin. Her eyes were closed. Doc set down his bag, looked at James. "I need to examine her." "I know. You should wait outside. I'm staying." Doc studied him for a moment, then nodded. "Turn your back then. Give her what privacy we can." James turned to face the wall, hands clenched at his sides. Doc pulled back the blanket carefully. I heard him take in a sharp breath. I was still by the door. Couldn't see what he was seeing. Didn't need to. His face told me enough. He worked quiet for maybe 20 minutes, cleaning wounds, applying salve, bandaging. His hands were gentle, but his expression was stone. Finally, he pulled the blanket back up, covered her. "You can turn around," he said to James. James turned. His face was a question. "She'll live," Doc said. "Body will heal. Mind, that's harder to say." "The marks on her back," James said. "Quiet, controlled, deliberate, recent, maybe a week old, some older. Looks like—" Doc paused. "Looks like someone wanted her to remember who owned her." The words hung in the air like smoke. "Anyone do that needs to hang," I said. Doc looked at me. "Maybe. But first we need to know who she is, where she came from." "She can't talk yet," James said. "Needs rest, water, time." Doc nodded. "I'll come back tomorrow. Check on her." He looked at James straight. "This isn't a small thing, Coulter. Someone did this to her. Might come looking. Let them." The way James said it made Doc's eyebrows rise. "You know who she is?" "No." "But you're willing to stand between her and whoever did this?" James didn't answer, just looked at the girl on the cot. Doc packed his bag. "I'll keep this quiet for now, but Red here is going to talk. People are going to ask questions. Let them ask." Doc left. I followed him out. On the porch he stopped, looked back at the cabin. "He's different," Doc said. "Saw it in his eyes. He's been dead inside for a long time. But that girl, she woke something up. You think that's good? I think it's dangerous. For both of them." He climbed onto the wagon. We rode back to town in silence. I dropped him at his office. He got out, then turned back. "Red, I meant what I said. People will talk. This will get complicated." "Already is complicated." He nodded. "Watch your back, and tell Coulter to watch his." Then he went inside. I sat there on the wagon for a while. The sun was getting low, shadows stretching long across the dirt street. I thought about that girl's eyes, about James's face when he saw her, about the scars on her back, and I thought something's starting here, something that won't end quiet. I just didn't know how right I was. 3 days later. The town started talking. I kept my mouth shut best I could, but Doc had to file some kind of report. And once Patricia Hoffman heard there was a mysterious injured woman up at the hermit's cabin, well, that was all it took. By the second day, everyone knew, or thought they did. I was at Mary Chen's saloon that evening, wasn't drinking heavy, just nursing a whiskey and trying to stay invisible. Didn't work. "Red," Patricia Hoffman appeared at my table. "Is it true?" "Is what true?" "The woman, up at Coulter's." "There's a woman there. She was hurt. Doc's taking care of her." "Who is she?" "Don't know. She hasn't said." "Where'd she come from?" "Don't know that either." Patricia leaned in. "People are saying she's his woman, that he's been hiding her up there. People are idiots." "Red Sullivan, you watch your tongue." Mary Chen appeared from behind the bar. "Leave him be, Patricia. Man's got a right to his privacy, and so does the girl." Privacy. A strange woman appears half dead, and we're supposed to just— Yes, Mary said, firm. That's exactly what we're supposed to do. Mind our business and let her heal. Patricia huffed, but she left. I looked at Mary. Obliged. She wiped down the table. How's the girl really doing? Haven't been back up since the first day. But Coulter's taking care of her. Best he can. Mary was quiet for a moment. Then, that man's been carrying something heavy for a long time. Maybe this is his chance to set it down. Or pick up something heavier. Maybe. But at least he's not alone anymore. She walked away. I finished my whiskey and headed out. The stars were bright that night. No moon yet. Just the vast dark sky and the scattered light of distant suns. I thought about Mary's words, about James not being alone, and I wondered if being alone was sometimes safer than the alternative. 5 days. After I went back up to the cabin on the 5th day, bringing fresh supplies, food, clean bandages Doc had given me, James was on the porch, shotgun across his lap, not aimed at anything, just there. He looked like he hadn't slept. Morning, I said. Red. Brought supplies. Doc sent bandages. Obliged. I started unloading. He helped again. We worked in silence. When we were done, I finally asked, How is she? Alive. That all? He looked at the cabin door. She drank water yesterday, ate a little broth this morning, hasn't spoken. Doc say when he's coming back? Tomorrow. I nodded, started to get back on the wagon. Red. I turned. He was looking at me direct. First time ever. Thank you. For getting Doc. For not talking more than you had to. People are talking anyway. I know, but you didn't add fuel. What happens when she can talk? When people find out where she came from? His jaw tightened. Then we'll deal with it. I won't let them take her back. Wherever she came from, whatever they did to her, she's safe here. The certainty in his voice was something new, something solid. You don't even know her name. Don't need to know someone's name to know they need help. I climbed back on the wagon. Folks in town think she's your woman, that you've been hiding her. Let them think what they want. And when they find out the truth, he picked up the shotgun, stood. The truth is she was dying and I didn't walk away. That's all anyone needs to know. As I drove off, I thought about those words. I didn't walk away. Like walking away was something he'd done before, something he regretted, something he was done with. 1 week after. The first word. Doc told me later what happened on the 7th day. He'd gone up to check on her. James was outside chopping wood again. Steady rhythm, same as always. Doc went inside. She was awake, sitting up slightly, eyes tracking him as he moved. Hello, Doc said, gentle. I'm Dr. Wright. I've been looking after you. Can you understand me? She nodded, slow, careful. That's good. Are you in pain? Another nod. I can give you something for that, but I need to check your wounds first. Is that all right? She hesitated, then nodded again. He examined her. The wounds were healing, slowly, but healing. You're doing better, he said. Another week and you'll be able to move around more. But you need to rest. Let your body recover. She watched him, didn't speak. Can you tell me your name? Silence. Can you tell me where you came from? More silence. It's all right. You don't have to talk if you're not ready. But when you are, I'm here. And James is here. You're safe. At the mention of James's name, something changed in her expression. Not fear exactly. More like assessment. Like she was trying to figure out if she could trust what he was saying. Doc finished his examination. Stood. I'll be back in a few days. If you need anything before then, James will come get me. He was almost to the door when she spoke. One word, quiet as a breath. Water. Doc turned. She was looking at him. Her lips were dry, cracked, but her eyes were clearer than they'd been. Of course, Doc said. He poured water from the pitcher on the table. brought it to her, helped her drink. She took 3 small sips, then pulled back. "Thank you," she whispered. 2 words now. Doc smiled. "You're welcome." He went outside, found James stacking wood. "She spoke," Doc said. James went still. "What did she say?" "Asked for water, then said thank you." James nodded. Like this was important information he needed to remember. "That's good," he said. "That's a start." "It is. But James, eventually she's going to need to tell us what happened, where she came from, who did this to her. When she's ready. And if whoever did this comes looking—" James picked up another piece of wood, split it clean. "Then they'll find me instead." Doc left, rode back to town, told me the story that evening over whiskey at Mary's place. "She's coming back," he said. "Slowly, but she's coming back." "Did she say anything about what happened?" "No. And I didn't push. She'll talk when she's ready." "If she talks at all," I said. "Oh, she'll talk. People who survive things like that, they have to talk eventually. Have to get it out or it poisons them from the inside." "You think James will protect her?" Doc looked at me over his glass. "I think James would die protecting her, and I don't say that lightly." "You barely know the man." "True. But I know the look he had when I told him she spoke. That's not the look of a man doing a good deed. That's the look of a man who's found a reason to stop running from himself." 10 days after James came to town, first time in near a year, rode in on a horse that looked as uncomfortable with people as he did, tied up outside the general store. Patricia Hoffman came out before he even got to the door. "Mr. Coulter?" He touched his hat. "Ma'am, how's your guest healing? Does she have a name?" "Not one she's told me yet." "Where's she from?" "Ma'am, I need to buy supplies. You going to let me in your store, or you going to keep me on the porch asking questions I don't have answers to?" Patricia flushed. "Of course. Come in." I was inside picking up some tobacco. Watched the whole exchange. James bought simple things: bread, dried fruit, tea, soft foods, the kind you'd give someone recovering. While Patricia was wrapping his purchases, a man came in. Luther Stone. I didn't know his name then, just knew he was one of the rough types who came through now and again. Mining country attracted all kinds. He looked at James, then at the supplies. "You're Coulter," Luther said. "Wasn't a question." "I am. Heard you got a woman up at your place. Woman who ran off from where she belonged." James went very still. "You heard wrong." "Did I? I got a woman who was dying. I helped her. That's all you need to know." Luther smiled. Wasn't a friendly smile. "See, problem is, some folks been looking for a woman who ran. Matches the description I heard. Then those folks should look somewhere else. Maybe I should ride up to your place, see for myself." James set down the supplies, turned to face Luther full on. "You ride up to my place uninvited, you won't like what you find." "That a threat?" "It's a promise." They stared at each other. The store had gone quiet. Then Luther laughed. "Easy, old-timer. Just making conversation." He left. Patricia finished wrapping. Her hands were shaking. "Mr. Coulter was that man." "I don't know what that man was, and I don't care." James paid, gathered his supplies. "Thank you, ma'am." He left. I followed him out. "James?" He stopped, looked at me. "That man's trouble," I said. "I know. You need help, you let me know." He studied my face, then nodded. "Obliged." He rode out. I went back inside. Patricia was pale. "Who was that man?" she asked. "Don't know, but I'm going to find out." I went to Mary's. She was behind the bar. When I described Luther, her face went hard. "He was in here 2 nights ago, asking about a missing woman. Said she'd run from a mining camp up north. Said his boss wanted her back." "What did you tell him?" "Told him I didn't know anything about any woman. Then I suggested he leave before he wore out his welcome." "He mentioned the boss's name?" "No, but he paid with company scrip from Kern Enterprises. The name meant nothing to me then. It would mean everything later." 2 weeks after. She told him her name. James told Doc. Doc told me. I'm writing it here. Ellie. Just Ellie. Not a last name yet. But it was a start. She'd been talking more, little bits, fragments, about being hungry, about being cold, about the darkness. Not about where she'd come from yet, not about who'd hurt her, but she was eating better, moving around the cabin a little, still weak, but getting stronger. James had given her his cot. He slept on the floor by the fire. Doc said it was the proper thing to do. But I think it was more than that. I think James needed to keep watch, needed to know she was safe, needed to not fail again whatever failure he was carrying from before. One afternoon I brought supplies. James was outside teaching her to sit on the porch. She was wrapped in a blanket. Hair still tangled but cleaner, face still gaunt but color coming back. When she saw me, she pulled the blanket tighter. "Ellie," James said, gentle. "This is Red Sullivan. He's the one who brought Doc the first day." She looked at me. Her eyes were brown, deep brown, with something in them that looked like an animal deciding if you're hunter or just passing through. "Ma'am," I said, quiet. "Good to see you up and about." She didn't respond, just kept watching me. "Red brought food," James said, "and news from town." "What news?" she asked. Her voice was soft, rough from not being used much. I glanced at James. He nodded. "Man came through asking about a woman who ran from a mining camp. Said his boss wanted her back." Ellie's whole body tensed. The blanket pulled tighter. "What did you tell him?" James asked. "Wasn't me," he asked, "but folks in town don't know much. Doc kept quiet. So did I." "He gone," Ellie whispered. "For now." She looked at James. "They'll come back." "I know. They'll come for me." "Let them try." She studied his face. "You don't understand what they are?" "Then tell me." She was quiet for a long moment. Then she stood, slow, careful, walked to the edge of the porch, looked out at the hills. "I need to leave," she said, "before they find me here, before they hurt you too." James stood, walked over beside her, didn't touch her, just stood close. "You're not strong enough to leave yet. And even if you were, where would you go? Anywhere. Somewhere they can't find me." "There's nowhere like that. Not if they're determined. So you might as well stay where someone's willing to stand with you." She turned to look at him. "Why? Why what? Why are you willing to stand with me? You don't know me, don't know what I've done, what I might have done to deserve—" "Nobody deserves what was done to you. You don't know that. I know enough." They looked at each other. Something passed between them, understanding maybe, or recognition. "I'll tell you," she said finally, "about where I came from, what happened. But not yet. I need a little more time." "Take all the time you need." I left them there on the porch, two broken people trying to figure out if they could protect each other from whatever was coming. Rode back to town thinking about what she'd said. "They'll hurt you too." Whoever they were, they'd already hurt her plenty. Question was, what would they do when they found out where she was? 3 weeks after she started telling pieces of the story, not all at once, just fragments, like she was testing the words to see if they'd break her. I heard about it from James when I brought supplies. "She was in Santa Fe," he told me, out on the porch. Ellie was inside resting. Doing what? Living, working, trying to help her family. Saw a job posting, mining camp up north, said they needed a kitchen worker, good wages. And wasn't a kitchen, just a mine. And once she got there, they didn't let her leave. The words sat heavy between us. "How many others?" I asked. She says 40, maybe 50. Men and women both. Some signed contracts they couldn't read. Some were told one thing and found another. Some just disappeared from other places and ended up there. That's slavery. Not officially. They call it debt work, contract labor. But you're right. It's slavery dressed up in legal paper. Where is this place? She says north, up in the hills past the territorial boundary. No law up there, no witnesses, just work and punishment and more work. The man who came through town, Luther, he worked there. She thinks so, can't be sure. They kept her in the dark most of the time, literally. Worked the mine during daylight. Kept in barracks at night, no windows, no way to track time except by the rhythm of the work. How long was she there? Near a year. A year. 365 days of darkness and pain and fear. How'd she get out? James was quiet. Then, she killed a man. The words hit like a punch. What? Guard. He came at her. She picked up a rock, caught him in the temple. He went down. She ran. Jesus. She doesn't know if he died or not. Doesn't know if they found his body or if they're looking for her for murder or just for running. Either way, they want her back. And if they find her, James looked at me. His eyes were cold. They won't take her back. I promise you that. James, you can't fight a whole mining operation. Watch me. There was something in his voice I hadn't heard before. Steel. Determination. Maybe even hope. I should tell the sheriff, I said. We don't have a sheriff. Town's too small. Nearest law is Tucson. 2 days' ride. Then we send word. And say what? That a woman escaped from an illegal mine that might not even be in U.S. territory. That she maybe killed a man in self-defense. That we don't know where this place is or who runs it or how to prove any of it. He was right. It sounded weak even to me. So what do? We wait, we prepare, and when they come, we stand. They might come with more than one man. Then we'll need more than one gun. He looked at me direct. I'm not asking you to fight my battle red, but I am asking you to keep your eyes open. Let me know if you hear anything, see anything, anyone asking questions. I can do that. Obliged. I left, rode back to town. But I couldn't shake the feeling that we were waiting for a storm we couldn't see yet, but could feel building in the air. 4 weeks after. The town was talking more now. Couldn't help it. Word had spread about the woman at Coulter's place, about the man who'd come asking questions, about the hermit who suddenly wasn't so isolated anymore. I was at Mary's that evening. The place was half full, miners coming off shift, ranch hands, drifters, and talk. Heard she's his woman. Heard she ran from a husband. Heard Coulter's been keeping her locked up. Mary slammed her hand on the bar. The room went quiet. You all hear yourselves, she said, voice like iron, talking about a woman you don't know, making up stories about a man who's done nothing but help someone in need. We're just someone started. You're just gossiping, and it's ugly. She looked around the room. This town's got a choice. We can be the kind of place that helps people who need it, or we can be the kind that turns them away because we're too busy judging. Which is it? Silence. Then Doc Wright spoke up. He was at a corner table. Mary's right. That woman was dying when she came here. Coulter saved her life. Whatever else is true or not true, that's what matters. But what if she did something wrong? Someone asked. What if she's running from justice? Then justice will find her, Doc said. But in the meantime, we show some Christian mercy. The talk died down after that, but I could tell it wasn't settled. People were still unsure, still judging. I stayed until late. Mary came over when the crowd thinned. You've been up there, she said. How is she really getting stronger? And Coulter? Different. More alive than I've ever seen him. Mary nodded. Sometimes people need a reason to live beyond themselves. Maybe she's his reason. Or maybe she's his second chance. Mary looked at me sharp. Second chance for what? Don't know. But a man doesn't live alone for years unless he's running from something, and a man doesn't suddenly stand and fight unless he's done running. You think he's in love with her? I think he's found something worth protecting. Whether that's love or redemption or just basic human decency, I couldn't say. Mary wiped down the bar. Well, whatever it is, I hope it's strong enough for what's coming. Why do you say that? Because men who run illegal mining operations don't give up their workers easy, and they don't forgive people who kill their guards. She walked away. I sat there nursing my drink, thinking about storms and choices and second chances, and wondering if any of us were ready for what came next. 5 weeks after. The shooting lesson. I rode up to the cabin on a Sunday, brought fresh bread from Mary's kitchen and vegetables from Patricia's store. Found James and Ellie out behind the cabin. He was teaching her to shoot. She held the rifle awkward, too tense. But she was trying. "Breathe," James said, standing behind her, not touching, just guiding with his voice. "Squeeze slow, don't jerk." She fired. The can 20 yards away didn't move. "Again," he said. She reloaded, aimed, fired, still nothing. "You're anticipating the kick," James said. "Don't think about it, just sight and squeeze." Third shot. The can jumped, fell. Ellie lowered the rifle, turned to look at James, and smiled. It was the first time I'd seen her smile. It changed her whole face, made her look younger, made her look like someone who might have had a life before the darkness. James smiled back, just a slight upturn of his mouth, but it was there. "You're a natural," he said. "Don't lie to make me feel good." "I don't lie, and you are. Another week of practice, you'll be better than me." She laughed. Quiet, but genuine. I cleared my throat. They both turned. Ellie's smile faded. The walls went back up. "Red," James said. "Didn't hear you coming." Didn't mean to interrupt. "You're not. We were just finishing." Ellie handed him the rifle, walked back to the cabin. As she passed me, she nodded. Small, but acknowledgement. Progress. James watched her go, then turned to me. "She needs to be able to defend herself," he said. "You think they're coming?" "I know they're coming. Only question is when." "You could take her somewhere else. Get her out of the territory." "Where she's got no money, no family she can reach. And whoever runs that mine has reach. She said they have connections, political, maybe even military." "Then you need law on your side." "Law's 2 days away, and by the time I rode there and back with a sheriff, they'd have already come and gone." "So what's the plan?" James looked at the horizon. "The plan is we make this place defensible. We prepare, and when they come, we make it clear she's not going back. 1 man and 1 woman against however many it takes." The certainty in his voice was absolute. "You know you might die doing this," I said. "I know." "And you're willing to die for a woman you've known 5 weeks." He looked at me. "I'm willing to die for a woman I should have saved 12 years ago. This one just happens to be here now." The words hung in the air. I wanted to ask what he meant, who he'd failed to save, but his expression said the door was closed. "I'll help," I said instead. "Red, you don't have to." "I'll help. I don't know much about fighting. But I can shoot, and I can watch, and I can ride for help if needed." James nodded. Obliged. We went inside. Ellie was making coffee. She'd learned where things were, how James liked it made. She poured 3 cups without asking. We sat at the table, drank in silence. Outside, the sun was setting, painting the hills orange and red. Inside, 3 people who barely knew each other were preparing for a war they hadn't chosen but wouldn't run from. And somewhere out there in the territory, men who thought they owned people were planning their next move. The storm was coming. We all knew it. We just didn't know how bad it would be. 6 weeks after. The inciting incident came on a Tuesday. I was in town, Mary's place, afternoon, quiet. Then Luther Stone rode in, not alone this time, 3 men, all hard-looking, all carrying guns like they knew how to use them. They tied their horses outside Mary's, came in. The whole saloon went quiet. Luther walked to the bar, looked at Mary. "Whiskey," he said. She poured. He drank. Didn't pay. "I'm looking for someone," Luther said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Woman, early 20s, brown hair, scars on her back, goes by the name Ellie Rose. Nobody spoke. Now I know she's in this area, and I know someone here is hiding her, so I'm going to ask nice one time. Where is she? Silence. Luther smiled. Cold. That's how it's going to be. He turned to the room. The woman stole from her employer, killed a man. She's a criminal, and whoever's harboring her is breaking territorial law. Still silence. Fine. Luther turned back to Mary. Tell Coulter we're coming, tomorrow, and we're taking her back. He can hand her over peaceful, or we can do it the hard way. His choice. He dropped a coin on the bar. Him and his men walked out. The room stayed quiet even after they were gone. Then everyone started talking at once. Mary came over to where I was sitting. You need to warn him, she said. I know. Tonight. Now. I stood, headed for the door. Doc Wright was there. I'm coming with you. We rode hard up the ridge, got to the cabin just as the sun was setting. James was on the porch, saw us coming fast, had the shotgun in his hands before we dismounted. What is it? Luther Stone, I said, breathing hard. Came to town with 3 men. Says they're coming tomorrow. Says Ellie's a criminal. Says you have to hand her over or they'll take her. James's face went hard. How many men? 4 total. Maybe more. Armed. Yes. James nodded, calm, like he'd been expecting this. Read, Doc, thank you for the warning, but you should go now. What happens tomorrow is between me and them. The hell it is, I said. I told you I'd help. I meant it. Doc spoke up. I'm not much for fighting, but I can tend wounds, and I can testify if it comes to that. James looked at us both. Something in his eyes softened. You don't owe me this. Maybe not, I said. But that girl in there doesn't deserve what they'll do to her if they take her back. And that's enough reason for me. The cabin door opened. Ellie stood there. I heard, she said. Her voice was steady. I'll go with them. I won't let you die for me. No, James said. Flat, final. James. I said no, I'm done running. Done letting people get hurt because I was too scared to stand. They want you. They go through me first. Ellie's eyes filled with tears. You'll die. Maybe, but I'll die standing, and that's better than living on my knees. He looked at me and Doc. You two get in the cabin. We've got work to do. We need to make this place ready. We worked through the night, moved furniture to create cover, loaded every gun James had, set up firing positions, prepared bandages and water, made plans for what to do when they came, because they were coming, and tomorrow everything would change. Dawn, the day they come. The night had been long. We'd worked until our hands were raw and our eyes burned from lack of sleep. But the cabin was ready as it could be. James had positioned the table on its side near the window. Heavy oak would stop most bullets. The bed frame was dragged to create a second barrier near the door. Ammunition lined the windowsill in neat rows, a soldier's precision showing through. Doc Wright had set up a medical station in the corner. Clean water, bandages, whiskey for pain and cleaning wounds. His hands had been steady while he worked, but I'd seen his eyes. He was scared. We all were. Ellie had helped where she could, moving lighter items, loading rifles. Her hands shook, but she kept working, kept pushing through whatever fear was eating at her. Around 3 a.m, James had sent us to get some rest. They won't come in darkness, he'd said. Men like that want to be seen, want you to know they're coming. They'll wait for daylight. I'd dozed in a chair. Doc stretched out on the floor near his medical supplies. Ellie had curled up on the cot, still dressed, rifle within reach. James hadn't slept at all, just sat by the window, watching, waiting. When the first gray light started seeping into the eastern sky, he stood, stretched. His back popped like rifle shots. Coffee, he said. I got up, started the fire, put the pot on. The ritual of making coffee felt strange. Normal domestic action while we prepared for violence. but maybe that's how these things always were. Life and death sitting right next to each other. Ellie woke when she smelled the coffee, sat up slow. Her hair was tangled, eyes still heavy, but she was alert, ready. "Morning," James said to her. "Morning." Just that. Two people greeting each other on a day that might be their last, like it was any other morning. Doc stirred, groaned. "I'm too old for sleeping on floors." "You're too old for gunfights, too," I said. "But here we are." He smiled weak. "Here we are indeed." We drank coffee as the sun climbed higher. Nobody talked much. What was there to say? Around 7, James spoke. "Red, Doc, you should know something." We looked at him. "If this goes bad, if they get past me, you take Ellie and you run. There's a canyon about 2 miles north, caves in the rock walls. You can hide there until nightfall, then ride for Tucson, find a federal marshal, tell them everything." "And leave you?" I asked. "I'll be dead if it comes to that. No point in all of us dying." "James," Ellie started. "No argument. That's the plan. You understand?" We nodded. But I don't think any of us believed we'd actually run if it came to it. The sun kept climbing. 8 o'clock. 9. 10. Nothing. The waiting was worse than the preparation had been. At least working gave you something to focus on. This was just sitting, listening to every bird call, every wind sound, every creak of wood settling, wondering if this was it, wondering if you were about to die. Around 10:30, James stood suddenly. "What is it?" I asked. "Listen." I strained, heard nothing. Then horses, distant but getting closer. James picked up his shotgun, checked the load, cocked it. "Positions," he said. I moved to the window on the left. Doc stayed by his medical station. Ellie grabbed a rifle, moved to the right window. James took the center. Behind the overturned table, the hoofbeats got louder, closer, then stopped. I peered through a gap in the shutters, saw them. 4 riders. Luther Stone in front, 3 others behind, all armed. But they'd stopped about 50 yards out, not rushing the cabin, just sitting their horses. Luther called out, voice carrying across the distance. "Coulter, we don't want trouble. Just send out the girl and we'll be on our way." James didn't respond. "Coulter, you hear me? This doesn't have to get ugly." Still nothing from James. I glanced at him. His face was stone, jaw set, eyes fixed on the riders. Luther tried again. "The girl's a criminal. She killed a man. She belongs to the Kern Mining Company. You're breaking territorial law by harboring her at the name Kern." Something changed in James's expression. Just a flicker, but I saw it. "You got 1 minute to send her out," Luther shouted. "After that we're coming in, and anyone who gets hurt, that's on you." James finally spoke. Didn't shout, just loud enough to carry. "She's not going anywhere." "Then you're making a mistake, old man. Won't be my first, probably won't be my last." Luther said something to the men with him. 2 of them dismounted, started walking toward the cabin, rifles ready. "Warning shots," James said to me and Ellie. "Over their heads. Make them think twice." I aimed high. So did Ellie. We fired together. The shots cracked across the morning air. Dust kicked up 10 feet in front of the approaching men. They stopped, looked back at Luther. "Next ones won't miss," James called. The men hesitated, then backed up, remounted their horses. Luther's face was red even from this distance. "You're a dead man, Coulter. You hear me? Dead." "Then come, make me dead," James shouted back. "Or ride away and tell your boss he needs to send better men." For a long moment, nothing happened. The 4 riders sat their horses. James stood behind his barricade. The air was thick with tension and gunpowder smoke. Then Luther turned his horse, said something I couldn't hear to his men. They rode off, not fast, not running, just leaving. But as they disappeared over the ridge, Luther's words hung in the air. "You're a dead man." We stayed in position for another hour, making sure they were really gone, making sure it wasn't a trick. Finally, James lowered his shotgun. "They'll be back." When? Doc asked. Soon. Maybe today. Maybe tomorrow. But they'll be back with more men. How many more? Ellie asked. Her voice was small. As many as it takes. She set down her rifle, walked to the door, stepped outside. James followed her. I watched through the window as they stood on the porch. Her shoulders were shaking. His hand reached out, hovering near her back, then pulled away, not touching, but close. After a while she turned to him. I couldn't hear what they said, but I saw her face, saw the tears, saw James shake his head firmly at something she asked. She wiped her eyes, nodded. They came back inside. I need to tell you something, Ellie said to all of us. About where I came from. About what they are. We sat. She stood, took a breath. The Kern Mining Company isn't just a mine, it's a machine. They find people who are desperate, offer them work, good wages, a chance to pay off debts or feed their families, and once you sign the contract, you're trapped. How trapped? Doc asked. The contract says you're borrowing money for transport to the camp, for food and housing while you're there, for tools and supplies, but the prices are inflated. Impossible. You can never earn enough to pay it back, so you keep working. And if you try to leave, they say you're stealing from them, breaking the contract. That's illegal, Doc said. Is it? They have lawyers, they have judges in their pockets, they have paperwork that says everything's legitimate. Her voice got harder. And they have men with guns who make sure nobody asks too many questions. How many people are there? James asked. When I left, maybe 50. But people come and go. Some die in the mine, cave-ins, accidents. Some just disappear. They say they ran, but I don't think they made it far. And the man you killed? She flinched at the word. His name was Davies. He was a guard. He came at me. I'd been trying to run for weeks, watching for opportunities. That night he was drinking, supposed to be watching the barracks door. But he fell asleep. I snuck out. He woke up, grabbed me, started dragging me back. I picked up a rock. Wasn't even thinking, just swung. He dropped. I ran. You don't know if he died? I asked. I didn't stay to check, just ran. 3 days through the hills, no food, no water, just running until I couldn't run anymore. That's when I found... She looked at James. That's when I found you. James nodded slow. And this Silas Kern, what's he like? Ellie's face went pale. I only saw him twice. Once when I arrived. Once when... She touched her back where the scars were. He's not like Luther. Luther's just mean. Kern is cold, calculated. He doesn't hurt people because he's angry. He hurts them because it's efficient, because it sends a message. What kind of message? That you belong to him, that your body is his property to mark, that resistance is futile. The room went quiet. How do you know Kern's name? James asked. His voice was careful, too careful. Ellie looked confused. Luther said it, outside, Kern Mining Company. Before that, you knew it before, she thought. One of the other workers mentioned it once. Why? James stood, walked to the window, stared out at the hills. James, I said, you know something about Kern. He didn't answer for a long time. Then, I need some air. He walked out. I looked at Doc. He shrugged. Ellie stood. I'll go. Maybe give him a minute, Doc suggested. No, something's wrong. I saw his face when Luther said that name. She went outside. Through the window I watched her approach him, saw him shake his head, saw her insist, saw him turn away, then saw him turn back and start talking. The Tennessee Story. They talked for a long time on that porch. I didn't hear what was said. James told me later, told me because he said I deserved to know, said I'd earned the right by standing with them. This is what he told Ellie that morning. My name's not just James, it's James Robert Coulter, Captain James Robert Coulter, 5th Tennessee Infantry, Union Army. Ellie had looked at him. You were an officer. Was. Long time ago. Different life. What happened? James had been quiet, staring at those hills. Then he started talking, like a dam breaking. Words he'd kept locked up for 12 years finally forcing their way out. April 1865. War was almost over. Everyone knew it. But men were still dying, still following orders, still trying to take one more hill or hold one more bridge. I had a squad, 12 good men. We were in Tennessee, small town called Willow Springs. Confederate scouts had been spotted heading for a bridge. If they destroyed it, our supply lines would be cut. My commanding officer gave me an order: pursue those scouts. Stop them, at any cost. I took my men, started the pursuit. But as we were leaving town, I heard screaming, looked back, saw a building on fire. Confederate forces had torched it on their way through. Standard scorched earth tactics. There was a girl inside. I could hear her, could see her in the window, maybe 16 years old, trapped on the second floor. Couldn't get down because the stairs were already burning. My sergeant said we had to go. Said orders were orders. Said one girl wasn't worth losing the bridge. He was right. Tactically, strategically, we had a mission. We had orders. So I gave the command: pursue the scouts. We rode away. I looked back once, saw her in that window, saw her screaming, saw the smoke getting thicker. We caught the scouts, stopped them from destroying the bridge. Mission success. When we got back to Willow Springs 2 hours later, that building was ash, and inside the ash was a body. Sarah Ann Whitmore, 16 years old, daughter of a local merchant, no sides in the war, just a girl who'd been in the wrong place at the wrong time. Her mother found me, told me Sarah had been alive when the building fell, told me she'd called for help for 30 minutes before the smoke took her. 30 minutes. If I'd just stopped and pulled her out, she'd have lived. We'd have been delayed by 10 minutes, maybe 15, would have still caught those scouts. But I followed orders, did my duty, and a girl died. James had stopped talking. His hands were gripping the porch rail so hard his knuckles were white. Ellie had waited, let the silence sit. Then she'd asked, "What did you do after finished the war? Got decorated for valor. That commendation you saw, that was for the bridge, for following orders, for doing my duty, while a girl burned to death." I stayed in the Army for about 6 months after the war ended. Couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't follow orders. Couldn't trust myself. Couldn't look at my men without seeing her face in that window. So I deserted, ran, came west, found this place, told myself I was done with people, done with choices, done with failing. Been here 12 years, alone, safe, no one to fail, no one to save, no one to watch die. Then you stumbled out of those trees, wrapped in white cloth, looking like death. And for a second all I could see was Sarah Ann in that window, and I thought, not again, not again. Ellie had been crying by then, quiet tears. "James, that wasn't your fault. Wasn't it? I made the choice. I chose the mission over her life. You chose to follow orders. That's what soldiers do. Good soldiers follow orders. Great soldiers know when to break them. You were a captain. You had men depending on you. You had a mission. You couldn't have known." I knew. The second I heard her screaming, I knew. And I chose wrong. They'd stood there in the morning sun, two people carrying different kinds of guilt. Finally, Ellie had spoken. "My mother told me a story once about a nurse she knew during the war, woman named Margaret Whitmore. She talked about her daughter who died in a fire, said there was a soldier who tried to help but couldn't, said the mother didn't blame him, said Sarah Ann wouldn't have blamed him either." James had turned to look at her. "What?" "Margaret Whitmore. She was my mother's friend. They worked together in a field hospital. My mother said Margaret talked about her daughter until the day she died. Said the soldier had carried guilt that wasn't his to carry. Said if she ever met him, she'd tell him Sarah wouldn't want him punishing himself." Your mother knew Sarah Ann's mother. They were close. After the war, Margaret moved to Santa Fe. That's where my mother was from. They stayed friends until Margaret died, about 5 years ago. James had gone very still. Did your mother ever say the soldier's name? No, just that he was young, that he'd been following orders, that he disappeared after the war, and Margaret never got to tell him he was forgiven. The weight of those words had hung between them. I'm that soldier, James had said. Quiet. I'm the man Margaret Whitmore never found. Ellie had reached out then, touched his arm. First time she'd initiated physical contact. Then let me tell you what she wanted you to hear. You're forgiven. Sarah Ann wouldn't want you to carry this. You did what you thought was right. You can't change the past. But you can choose differently now. I am choosing differently. I'm not walking away from you. I know. And that matters. That's what Margaret would want you to know. That choosing to stand now honors Sarah Ann's memory better than a lifetime of guilt. They'd stood there for a while longer. Then James had asked, "What was your mother's name?" "Catherine. Catherine Ward before she married." "Why?" "No reason. Just want to know who raised a woman brave enough to tell a coward he's forgiven." "You're not a coward." "I ran for 12 years. You stopped running. That takes more courage than never running at all." That's what James told me later. Sitting on the porch after everything was done, after the guns were silent and the bodies were buried. He told me because he wanted me to understand why he fought so hard, why he was willing to die. Not just for Ellie, for Sarah Ann too, for the chance to choose right when he'd chosen wrong before. Afternoon. The message. They came back inside around noon. Both of them looked lighter somehow, like talking had lifted something neither of them knew they were carrying. "We need to send for help," James said. "Real help, not just the three of us." "Nearest law is Tucson," I said. 2 days' ride. "I know someone closer. If he's still alive, if he's still where I think he is." "Who?" "Abram Hale. We served together. Last I heard he was sheriffing somewhere in the territory, maybe Apache County, maybe Yavapai." "That's still a day's ride at least," Doc said. "Then we better send word now." James looked at me. "Red, you know, folks. You travel. Anyone heading north in the next few days, I thought." "Stage driver. Pete Rollins. He's got a route that swings through Apache County day after tomorrow." "Can he be trusted?" "He's good people. Quiet. Keeps his word." "All right. I'll write a message. You get it to him. Tell him to deliver it to Sheriff Abram Hale. Tell him it's urgent." James sat down at the table, found paper and a pencil, wrote slowly, like every word mattered. When he was done, he folded it, sealed it with candle wax, handed it to me. "Get this to Pete today, and Red, tell him to be careful. Tell him not to mention it to anyone. Kern might have ears everywhere." I took the letter, rode to town, found Pete Rollins at the stage depot, old cowboy, maybe 60, with a face like worn leather and eyes that didn't miss much. "Pete, need a favor." "What kind?" "Need you to deliver a message to Sheriff Abram Hale, somewhere in Apache County." Pete looked at the sealed letter. "This about the trouble up at Coulter's place." "You heard." "Whole territory's heard by now. Word travels." He took the letter. "I know Hale. Good man. Was a good soldier, too, from what I hear." "You'll get it to him." "I will. And Red, tell Coulter to watch his back. Kern's people don't give up easy, and they don't fight fair." I rode back to the cabin, told James the message was on its way. "How long until Abram gets it?" Ellie asked. 3 days minimum," James said. "Maybe 4. And Luther could be back tomorrow." "Or tonight," Doc spoke up. "Then we need more than just hope and ammunition. We need a plan." James nodded. "You're right. Let's talk through scenarios." We spent the afternoon planning. What to do if they came at night, if they came with fire, if they tried to surround us, if they tried to wait us out. For every scenario, James had a counter. The man had been a soldier. It showed in how he thought, how he planned. but I could see the worry in his eyes. We were 3 men and a woman. Against how many 4820? No amount of planning changed those numbers. Evening. Ellie's story. Continued. That night we ate a quiet supper. Beans and cornbread. Coffee that was more grounds than water. Ellie had cooked it. Insisted on helping. Said sitting idle made her think too much. After we'd eaten, she started talking again. Telling more of her story. Like she needed to get it out before whatever was coming arrived. The mine was silver, she said. Deep in the hills. They'd found a vein, rich one. But it was in disputed territory. Mexican land claims, Indian treaties. Nobody was sure who owned it legally, so Kern just took it. Figured possession was 9/10 of the law. He needed workers, lots of them. But he couldn't advertise openly, couldn't draw attention. So he used recruiters, men who'd go to towns and find desperate people, offer them contracts. I signed mine in Santa Fe, thought I was being smart, thought I was helping my family. My father is a judge, good man. But judges don't make much money. We were struggling. I saw the job posting, kitchen worker, $30 a month. It seemed like salvation. How'd you get there? Doc asked. Wagon, with 12 other people. All of us signed contracts, all of us thinking we were going to legitimate work. The trip took 4 days, and each day we got further from civilization, further from law, further from hope. When we arrived, I knew something was wrong. There was no town, no kitchen, just the mine, barracks, armed guards. They took our papers, said they'd hold them for safekeeping. Then they showed us the company store. Everything overpriced. Everything designed to keep us in debt. I tried to leave the first week. They caught me, brought me to Kern's office. He was calm, almost kind. Explained that I owed them money now. Transport, food, lodging, tools. It all added up. If I left, I was stealing. And thieves went to jail. I said I'd work to pay it off. He smiled. Said that's exactly what I was going to do. Second time I tried to run, they broke my nose. Third time, she touched her back again. Third time, Kern decided I needed a reminder, something permanent. How many guards were there? James asked. 6, maybe 8. They rotated, kept us working day and night, different shifts. So we never had time to organize, never had time to plan together. And the other workers? Some had been there for years, broken. Accepted it. Some were new like me, still had fight. But fight doesn't matter when you're outnumbered and unarmed. How'd you finally get out? I asked. Luck. Davies, the guard I hit, he was drunk, new to the job, younger than the others. He fell asleep at his post. I snuck out, got maybe 100 yards before he woke up. He caught me, started dragging me back. I knew what would happen if he brought me back. Knew Kern would make an example. So when I saw that rock, I didn't think. Just grabbed it, swung it, he went down. I ran. I don't know if I killed him. Part of me hopes I did. Part of me hates myself for hoping that. She looked at James. Does that make me a bad person? No, he said, firm. It makes you a survivor. There's a difference. I killed a man. You defended yourself. That's not murder. That's the right to live. The law might not see it that way. Then the law's wrong. Doc cleared his throat. Ellie, if we get through this, if we get you to safety, you tell your story to a federal marshal, to a judge. They'll understand. Self-defense is recognized, especially under duress. You really think so? I do. And your father's a judge. He'll know how to help. Ellie went quiet. My father doesn't know where I am, doesn't know what happened, probably thinks I'm dead. Then we'll get word to him, James said. Once this is over. If we survive. We'll survive. The certainty in his voice was something to hold on to, even if none of us quite believed it. 2 days later. Waiting. Luther didn't come back the next day, or the day after. The waiting was agony. We took shifts watching, James and I alternating, Doc helping when he could. Ellie insisted on taking a shift too. James finally agreed. but only during daylight. The cabin started to feel like a prison. We couldn't leave, couldn't relax, just waiting for violence we knew was coming, but didn't know when. On the third day, Ellie asked James to teach her more about shooting. They went out behind the cabin. I watched from the window. He was patient with her, correcting her stance, showing her how to breathe, how to aim, how to reload fast. She was a quick learner, natural like James had said. But watching them, I saw something else too. Saw the way she looked at him when he wasn't watching. Saw the way he stood just a little closer than necessary when demonstrating. Not romance, not yet, maybe not ever, but connection, understanding. Two broken people finding something in each other that made the breaking feel less permanent. That evening I was sitting on the porch with Doc. James and Ellie were inside making supper. "You see it too?" Doc asked. "See what? The way they are with each other." "I see it." "You think it's good or dangerous?" I thought about it. Maybe both. But I think it's real. And real things are worth protecting. Doc nodded. "I hope they get the chance to find out what it is, what it could be." "Me too." We sat in silence, watching the sun set over the hills, wondering if tomorrow would bring answers, or just more questions, or if tomorrow would bring death. Day 4. The Rider. The rider came at noon, just one man, but riding fast, coming from the north. James grabbed his rifle. "Positions." We moved inside, took up our places. The rider got closer. I could see him now through the shutters. Gray hair, badge on his chest, riding like a man who knew how to handle a horse. "Hold your fire," James said. His voice had changed, gone soft, almost disbelieving. "You know him?" I asked. "Yeah, I know him." James stepped outside, rifle lowered but ready. The rider pulled up, dismounted, stood there looking at James. Long moment of silence. Then the rider spoke. "Jim." "Abram." The name hung in the air between them. I came out onto the porch, got a good look at the newcomer. Sheriff Abram Hale, I'd learn later. Late 30s, tall, lean, eyes that had seen combat and didn't flinch from it. He and James just stood there, staring at each other. "Got your message?" Abram said finally. "Rode 3 days straight. Thought you might be dead. Thought the same about you. Been what, 12 years? About that. Looked for you. After the war. Searched for 2 years. I know. I'm sorry." Abram nodded. Didn't say anything else about it. Just, "You in trouble." "Some. The kind of trouble that needs a badge and a gun." "Yeah." "Then I'm here." Just like that. No questions. No hesitation. Just, "I'm here." That's friendship. Real friendship. The kind that survives 12 years of silence and distance and pain. James's shoulders relaxed slightly. First time in days I'd seen him look like he wasn't carrying the weight of the world. "Come inside," James said. "We've got coffee and a story you need to hear." Abram followed him in, saw Ellie and Doc and me. "Sheriff Abram Hale," he introduced himself. "And you are—" We gave our names, shook hands. His grip was firm, calloused, the grip of a man who worked with his hands. We sat around the table. James poured coffee. Then Ellie told her story again. From the beginning. The contract, the mine, the escape, Luther's threat. Abram listened without interrupting. His face got harder with each detail. When Ellie finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then, "This Kern Mining Company. You said Silas Kern runs it." "That's what Luther said," Ellie confirmed. Abram looked at James. "You know that name?" James's face had gone pale. "Yeah, I know it." "Tennessee." "Tennessee." I looked between them. "Someone want to explain?" James set down his coffee cup. "Captain Silas Kern. He was my commanding officer. The man who gave me the order to pursue those scouts. The man who told me to leave Sarah Ann and do my duty." The words fell like stones in water. Abram swore, soft but vicious. You're telling me the man who's trying to take Ellie back is your old CO? That's exactly what I'm telling you. Does he know you're here? Don't see how he could, unless Luther told him. But I don't think Luther knows who I am. Don't think anyone does except you. Abram stood, paced. This complicates things. How? Doc asked. Kern's not just running an illegal mining operation. He's got connections, political ones. I've heard his name come up in territorial politics. He's got judges in his pocket, maybe even the governor. So we can't trust the law? I asked. We can trust federal law, but territorial county I'd be careful. You're territorial law, Ellie said. I am, but I'm also clean. I don't take bribes. Don't look the other way. That's why I'm stuck in Apache County instead of somewhere more comfortable. I make people nervous. James sat down across from Abram. What do? We prepare. We document everything. We get Ellie's testimony on record. We send it to a federal marshal, and we make sure that if Kern comes here, he's the one breaking the law, not us. He's already breaking the law, Doc said. True, but we need proof. We need witnesses. We need something that can't be buried or ignored. How long will that take? Ellie asked. For a federal marshal to get here week, maybe 2. Luther said they'd be back in days. Abram looked at James. Then we hold them off. We make this place defensible. We make it cost them too much to take her back. 3 men against how many? I asked. 4, Abram corrected. And Ellie makes 5. I saw her shooting earlier through the window. She's not helpless. Still not great odds. No, but I've fought with worse, and I've fought beside Jim before. We came out alive then. We'll do it again now. The confidence in his voice was infectious, like maybe we actually had a chance. Tell me about Tennessee, Abram said to James. How'd Kern react when you didn't save that girl? James was quiet, remembering. He commended me, said I'd made the right choice, said duty came first, gave me that commendation you saw. He didn't care that she died. If he did, he didn't show it. He was cold about it, said war meant hard choices, said a good soldier makes the hard choice every time. And now he's running a mine where he brands people like cattle. Seems like the same philosophy to him. Profit over people, efficiency over morality. Abram's jaw tightened. Then we stop him. Not just from taking Ellie. We stop the whole operation. How? Doc asked. Step 1, we keep Ellie safe. Step 2, we get a federal marshal involved. Step 3, we shut down that mine and free everyone there. That's ambitious, I said. Maybe, but it's the right thing to do. James smiled. Small, but real. You haven't changed, Abe. Still trying to save the world. Someone has to. Might as well be us. Evening. War stories. That night, after Ellie and Doc had gone to sleep, James and Abram sat on the porch, talking quiet, catching up on 12 years of silence. I was inside pretending to sleep, but I could hear them through the door. Why'd you run? Abram asked. No judgment, just curiosity. Couldn't do it anymore. Couldn't follow orders that got people killed. Couldn't look at my men without seeing Sarah Ann's face. It wasn't your fault, Jim. Everyone keeps saying that. But I made the choice. I lived with it. That makes it mine. You made the choice you were trained to make. The choice any soldier would have made. That's what scares me. That we're trained to value missions over lives, orders over morality. Abram was quiet. Then, you remember Chattanooga? Which part? We were there for months. The night on the ridge, when we got separated from the company. Just you and me and maybe 30 rebels between us and safety. I remember. You could have left me. I was shot, slowing you down. You could have made it out alone. Never crossed my mind. Exactly, because you're not the kind of man who leaves people behind. What happened in Willow Springs was a fluke, an impossible situation. You can't judge yourself on one moment when you've got a lifetime of other moments that prove who you really are. James didn't respond. You saved my life that night, Jim, and probably a dozen other times I don't even remember. You're a good man who made one hard choice in an impossible situation. That doesn't define you. Then what does this, right now, standing for Ellie when you could have walked away? That's who you are. That's what defines you. More silence. Then James said, I've missed you, brother. Missed you too. And I'm glad you're done running. Me too. They sat out there until late, talking about the war, about the years since, about everything except what was coming. Sometimes you need that. Need to remember there's more to life than just survival. More to friendship than just fighting side by side. You need to remember what you're fighting for. Day 5. Preparation. Abram brought military discipline to our preparations, had us set up proper watch rotations, proper fields of fire, proper fallback positions. He also brought supplies, ammunition, food, and something else, a telegraph form. Sent this before I left, he said, to a federal marshal I trust. Told him there's an illegal mining operation in the territory. Told him I'd have a witness and evidence. Told him to get here as fast as he can. When's he coming? James asked. Week, maybe 10 days. Depends on where he was when he got the message. We might not have a week. I know. That's why we hold. And if Kern comes himself, Abram looked at James, then you face your old commander, and you show him you're done following his orders. Day 6. The Scout. We saw the Scout on the 6th day. Single rider, staying far back, just watching, counting. Abram saw him first. They're doing reconnaissance, figuring out how many of us there are, how we're positioned. Should we chase him off? I asked. No, let him look. Let him report back. The more they think about what they're facing, the more careful they'll be. Careful men make mistakes. Or they bring more men. That too. But we'll be ready. The Scout stayed for about an hour, then rode off. How long until they come? Ellie asked. Tomorrow, Abram said. Maybe the day after. But soon. That night, James pulled me aside. Red, you should go. Get out before this starts. We've had this conversation. I mean it. This isn't your fight. Then whose fight is it? Just yours? You don't get to decide that. I don't want you dying for my mistakes. I'm not. I'm standing for what's right. Big difference. He looked at me for a long moment, then nodded. All right. But when it starts, you follow Abram's orders. He knows what he's doing. And you don't. I know enough to get people killed. Abram knows how to keep them alive. I thought about arguing, but he was probably right. Day 7. Ellie's question. Morning of the 7th day. Ellie asked James to walk with her. They went out beyond the cabin. I watched from the porch, saw them stop by a cluster of rocks, saw them talk, saw Ellie reach out and touch James's hand, saw him not pull away. When they came back, Ellie looked settled, calmer. James looked terrified. Later I asked him what she'd said. She asked me what happens if we survive this. What did you tell her? That I don't know, that I haven't thought past tomorrow. Maybe you should. Maybe. But thinking past tomorrow feels like tempting fate. Or giving yourself something to live for. He smiled. Sad. Maybe that too. That afternoon, the Discovery Doc was treating a small cut on Ellie's hand. She'd caught it on some broken wood when he noticed something. Ellie, can I ask you about your father? What about him? You said he's a judge in Santa Fe. That's right. What's his name? Marcus. Marcus Whitmore. Why? Doc went very still. Whitmore. Yes. He looked at James. The girl you couldn't save. Sarah Ann. What was her mother's name? Margaret. Margaret Whitmore. Doc turned back to Ellie. And your mother's friend. The one who knew Margaret. What was that connection? Ellie's eyes widened. You don't think... I think Margaret Whitmore might have been your father's sister, which would make Sarah Ann your cousin. The room went silent. James stood, walked to the window, gripped the frame. "Jim," Abram said quietly, "it's not possible." "Names match," Doc said. "Timeline matches. Geography matches." Ellie stood, walked over to James. "Is it true? Was Sarah Ann my cousin?" "I don't know. Maybe. Your mother never mentioned the name. She mentioned Margaret, said she died a few years after the war. Grief over her daughter. But she never said what the daughter's name was, just that she died in a fire." James turned to face her. "If she was your cousin, if I failed to save your family, then you didn't fail this time. You saved me. Maybe that's what matters. It doesn't bring Sarah Ann back. No, but it honors her memory, shows that her death meant something, that you learned, that you changed. I should have changed 12 years ago. Maybe you weren't ready 12 years ago. Maybe you needed this long to be ready." Abram spoke up. "Or maybe some things are meant to come full circle. Maybe you were meant to save Ellie because you couldn't save Sarah Ann. Maybe that's how redemption works." James looked at all of us. "I don't deserve redemption." "Maybe not," Ellie said. "But you're getting it anyway, and you can either accept it or keep punishing yourself forever. Your choice." She walked outside, left James standing there. He looked at me. "What do I do?" "You accept it. You let go. You move forward." "I don't know how." "Yes, you do. You're already doing it. You just don't see it yet." Evening. The storm gathering. That evening clouds rolled in from the west, dark, heavy. The air smelled like rain. Abram studied the sky. "Storm's coming." "When?" James asked. "Tonight. Maybe early morning." "Good cover for an attack." "My thought exactly. We double the watch. Stay alert." We prepared, checked weapons, secured shutters, made sure everything was ready. Around midnight the rain started. Soft at first, then harder. Thunder rolling across the hills. I was on watch with Abram. James and Doc were sleeping. Ellie was sitting by the window, couldn't sleep. "You think they'll come tonight?" I asked Abram. "If they're smart, they will. Rain covers sound. Lightning messes with visibility. It's tactical. And if they're not smart, then they'll come tomorrow in daylight and we'll have a better chance." The rain kept falling. Wind picked up. The cabin creaked. Then through the sound of the storm, I heard something else. Horses. Abram heard it too. "Wake everyone. Now!" I ran inside, shook James awake. He was up instantly reaching for his rifle. "They're here," I said. He looked at Ellie. "Remember the plan. You stay inside. You shoot anyone who comes through that door who isn't one of us." She nodded, grabbed her rifle. James, Abram, and I moved outside. Doc stayed inside with Ellie. The rain was coming down hard now. Lightning flashed, illuminating the landscape in stark white light. And in that flash I saw them. 10 riders, maybe more, coming up the ridge road. Not rushing, just advancing. Steady. Inevitable. "How many?" James asked. 10 that I can see," Abram said. "Maybe more in the dark." "Too many." "Yeah, but we make them work for it." The riders stopped about 50 yards out, just like Luther had before. But this time Luther wasn't in front. Someone else was. Even through the rain, even in the darkness, I could see him, sitting straight in the saddle, wearing a long coat, hat pulled low. Lightning flashed again, and I saw his face, older than James, maybe mid-40s, sharp features, cold eyes, the kind of eyes that calculated profit and loss in human lives. Silas Kern. He'd come himself. James saw him too. I felt him go rigid beside me. "Captain," Kern called out, voice cutting through the rain. "It's been a long time." James didn't respond. "I have to say I'm impressed. Didn't think you had it in you to stand. Thought you'd learned your lesson back in Tennessee. Thought you understood that duty always comes first." "I understand plenty," James called back. "I understand you're trafficking people. I understand you're running an illegal operation. And I understand you're not taking her back." Kern laughed. "Still playing hero? You weren't very good at it in the war. What makes you think you'll be better at it now?" "Because this time I'm choosing right instead of following orders. And look where that's gotten you. Outnumbered, outgunned, facing men who actually know how to fight instead of burn-scarred farm boys." Abram spoke up. "This is Sheriff Abram Hale. You're trespassing, you're threatening citizens, and you're about to commit assault. Turn around now or face federal charges." Kern's attention shifted. "Hale, I remember you. One of Coulter's lapdogs. Tell me, Sheriff, how much does Apache County pay you? I'll double it. Right now. Just step aside." "Can't be bought." "Everyone can be bought. It's just a matter of price." "Then you can't afford me." Kern's smile faded. "Very well. Last chance, Captain. Send out the girl. Walk away. I'll forget this happened. You can go back to rotting in your cabin." "No." "Then you're all dead men." Kern raised his hand, and that's when the world exploded into gunfire. The first shots. The rain turned everything into chaos. Muzzle flashes lit up the night like lightning. Thunder and gunfire blended until you couldn't tell one from the other. Water streamed off the cabin roof, making visibility near impossible. I fired at shadows, at movement, at anything that looked like it might be a man on horseback. Beside me, James worked his rifle with mechanical precision. Aim, fire, reload, aim, fire, reload. Like he'd done this 1,000 times before. Abram was on my other side, calling out positions. 2 coming left, watch the rocks, 3 more behind. Bullets slammed into the cabin walls, splintered wood. One came so close to my head I felt the wind of it passing. I dropped behind the overturned table, heart hammering, hands shaking. "Stay down," James shouted. "Don't expose yourself." Easy for him to say. He seemed calm, focused, like the fear had burned out of him years ago and left only efficiency. More shots. I heard glass breaking inside, heard Ellie cry out. James's head snapped toward the cabin. "Ellie." "I'm fine," she called back. "Window broke. I'm fine." But James was already moving, crawling toward the door. Abram grabbed his arm. "She said she's fine. Stay in position." James hesitated, every instinct clearly screaming at him to go to her. But Abram was right. Breaking cover would get him killed. He stayed. But I saw his jaw clench, saw his hands grip the rifle harder. The shooting continued. 5 minutes. 10. Hard to track time in the chaos. Then it stopped. Sudden silence except for the rain, the ringing in my ears. "Hold fire," Abram said quietly. "See what they do." We waited, breathing hard, trying to see through the darkness and the rain. Kern's voice cut through the storm. "That was a warning. Next time we won't aim high. Send out the girl," James called back. "Come and take her. You're willing to die for a woman you barely know." "I'm willing to die to stop men like you." Kern laughed, cold, mirthless. "Men like me built this territory. We take what the land offers, and we make something from it. That's not evil. Captain, that's progress. Progress built on broken bodies isn't progress, it's exploitation." Spoken like a man who's never had to make the hard choices. "Oh wait, you have, and you know what you chose? You chose the mission, you chose duty, just like I taught you." James didn't respond. "That girl in Tennessee," Kern continued, "Sarah Ann, you remember her? You chose to let her burn rather than disobey orders because you understood that the greater good requires sacrifice. That's what I taught you. That's what you learned. That's what I'm trying to unlearn. By dying in the mud, by throwing your life away for a runaway slave. That's not redemption. Captain, that's suicide." Abram spoke low to James. "Don't let him bait you." But James was trembling, not from fear, from rage. "She's not a slave," he shouted. "She's a human being, something you've forgotten how to see." "I see profit and loss," Kern replied. "I see resources and return on investment. That girl cost me money to recruit, money to transport, money to train. She's company property, and I'm taking her back." over my dead body. If that's what it takes. Kern raised his hand again. This time the gunfire didn't stop. The long night. They came in waves, first wave suppressing fire, keeping our heads down while men tried to flank us. Abram saw it first. Left side 2 men circling. I swung my rifle, saw shapes moving through the rain. Fired. Missed. Fired again. One of them went down. Not sure if I hit him or he just slipped in the mud. The second man got close, maybe 20 feet. James dropped him with a single shot. The body lay there in the rain, not moving. First man I'd seen killed. My stomach turned. I looked away. "Don't think about it," Abram said. "He chose to be here. He chose this." But it didn't help. Dead was dead, and I'd helped make him that way. Second wave, they tried to set fire to the cabin. Someone threw a torch. It hit the wet roof, sputtered, went out. They tried again, this time with oil. The flames caught, started spreading despite the rain. "Water!" James shouted. "We need water!" Doc and Ellie scrambled, grabbed pots, buckets, started throwing water on the flames from inside. The fire fought to live, fed by oil, protected from rain by the overhanging roof. But they got it out, barely. The cabin smelled like smoke and wet wood and fear. Third wave, they tried to wait us out. The shooting stopped again, but they didn't leave, just stayed out there in the dark, watching, waiting for us to make a mistake. We took turns on watch, 2 hours each, but nobody really slept. I sat with my back against the wall, rifle in my lap, listening to the rain, listened to Ellie breathing, shallow, quick, scared but trying not to show it. Listened to James and Abram talking low, planning, calculating. Listened to Doc praying, quiet, under his breath. First time I'd heard him pray. Around 3 in the morning the rain started to let up. By 4 it was just a drizzle. By 5 it stopped completely. The sky started to lighten in the east. Dawn coming, and with it clarity. We could see them now, positioned around the cabin, maybe 30 yards out in a rough circle. 8 men that I could count. 2 bodies on the ground from earlier. 10 total. 2 dead. 8 still fighting. Against our 4. Still bad odds. Dawn. Luther's moment. The sun broke over the hills, pale, cold, but light nonetheless. Kern stood up from behind the rocks where he'd been sheltering, brushed off his coat, like this was just another business meeting. "Captain Coulter," he called, "I'm giving you one final chance. We can end this now. No more bloodshed. Just send out the girl." James stepped outside, rifle in hand but pointed down. "Abram," I whispered, "he's exposing himself." "I know, but this is his fight. We let him handle it." James walked to the edge of the porch, stood in full view. Kern smiled. "There you are. Good. Let's talk like civilized men." "We're past civilized." "Are we? I count 2 of my men dead, none of yours. Seems like you're winning this negotiation." "This isn't a negotiation, it's a standoff." "True. But standoffs end eventually, and when this one does, I'll have 10 times the men you have, maybe 20. I can afford losses. Can you?" James didn't answer. Kern took a step forward. "You know what your problem is, Captain. You think in absolutes, right and wrong, good and evil. But the world doesn't work that way. The world works on leverage, on power, on who's willing to do what it takes to win. And that's you. That's always been me, even in the war, even when I commanded you. I understood that victory required sacrifice, required hard choices. You understood it too once, until that girl burned and you decided to grow a conscience. A conscience isn't weakness, isn't it? Look where it's gotten you, hiding in a cabin, protecting a criminal, facing certain death, all because you can't let go of one mistake from 12 years ago. She wasn't a mistake, she was a person. She was acceptable losses, just like these men I've lost tonight, just like you'll be when this is over. James raised his rifle slightly. You talk too much, Silas. And you still don't understand how the world works. But you will, right before you die. Kern turned, started walking back to cover. That's when Luther spoke up. He was positioned off to the left, behind a cluster of rocks. I could just see him through the gap in the shutters. "Sir," he called, "maybe we should pull back, regroup, come back with more men." Kern stopped, turned slowly. "What did you say?" "I said maybe we should regroup. We're losing men, for one woman. Doesn't seem worth—" "Are you questioning my judgment, Mr. Stone?" Luther hesitated. "No, sir. Just thinking tactically. You're thinking like a coward. We don't retreat. We don't regroup. We finish this, now. But, sir, are you with me or against me?" The question hung in the air. Luther looked at Kern, then at the cabin, then back to Kern. "I'm with you, sir." But his voice shook when he said it. Kern smiled. "Good. Then prove it. Take 2 men, circle around back, burn them out." Luther nodded, stood, called to 2 of the others. They started moving. Abram saw it from inside. "They're flanking back of the cabin." James ran inside. "Ellie, Doc, get down red with me." We moved to the back window, saw 3 men approaching, Luther in the lead. "Wait for clear shots," James said. "Make them count." The men got closer, 20 yards, 15. One of them had a torch, already lit. 10 yards. "Now," James said. We fired, all 3 at once. The man with the torch went down. The torch flew from his hand, landed in wet grass, went out. The second man dove for cover. Luther froze. James had a bead on him, clear shot, could have dropped him easy, but he didn't fire. "Go," James said. Quiet, just loud enough for Luther to hear. "Go now and don't come back." Luther stared at him, then at the man on the ground, then back at James. He turned and ran. The third man saw Luther run, panicked, ran too. Just like that, Kern was down to 5 men. Mid-morning. The standoff breaks. Kern screamed when he saw Luther run. Actual screaming, rage, frustration, the first crack in his cold composure. "Cowards, I'm surrounded by cowards." He grabbed a rifle from one of his men, started firing at the cabin. Wild shots, angry shots, bullets punched through walls, shattered what was left of the windows. We hit the floor, covered our heads. The shooting went on for maybe 30 seconds, then stopped. Silence. We looked up cautiously. "Everyone okay?" Abram asked. "Fine," I said. "Good here," Doc confirmed. "Ellie," James called. No answer. "Ellie." "I'm fine." Her voice was tight, pained. James scrambled over to where she was pressed against the wall, blood on her arm. Not much, but enough. "You're hit." "It's just a graze, I'm fine." "Let me see." "James." I said I'm fine. But he was already tearing a strip from his shirt, wrapping her arm, his hands gentle despite the urgency. "You could have been killed. So could you. So could all of us. That's why we're here, isn't it? To risk dying for something worth dying for." He looked at her, really looked at her. And something passed between them. Understanding. Acceptance. Maybe even something more. "After this is over," he said quietly, "if we survive this, we're going to talk. About Tennessee. About Sarah Ann. About what comes next. Promises like that are dangerous when you might not live to keep them. Then I better make sure I live." He tied off the bandage, stood, went back to his position. But I saw Ellie watching him, saw something in her eyes that hadn't been there before. Hope. Noon. Kern's proposition. The shooting had stopped around mid-morning, both sides low on ammunition, both sides exhausted. We'd been fighting for nearly 12 hours. My hands were blistered from the rifle. My ears rang. My eyes burned. But we were alive, all 4 of us. Kern had 5 men left. Maybe. Hard to be sure. Some might have run. Some might be wounded. Either way, his confidence was shaken. Around noon, a white cloth appeared. waving from behind the rocks where Kern had taken position. "Hold fire," Abram called. We waited. Kern stood, hands empty, the white cloth still visible behind him. "Captain Coulter, I'm proposing a temporary ceasefire so we can talk." James looked at Abram. "What do you think could be a trick? Could be genuine." "Only one way to find out." James stood, walked to the door, opened it. "I'm listening. Not from shouting distance. Come out here man to man, no weapons. How do I know you won't shoot me? How do I know you won't shoot me? I guess we both take a risk." James looked back at us. "Cover me. If he shoots, kill him." "Jim," Abram started. "I need to hear what he has to say. I need to look him in the eye." He handed his rifle to me, walked out into the open space between the cabin and Kern's position. Kern did the same, left his men, walked out unarmed. They met in the middle, maybe 20 yards from the cabin, 20 yards from Kern's men. I watched through the window, rifle ready. If Kern made one wrong move, I'd drop him. They stood facing each other, two men who'd served together 12 years ago, now enemies. The conversation. I couldn't hear what they were saying. Too far. But I could read body language. Kern relaxed, almost casual, like this was a friendly chat. James tense, coiled, ready to fight or flee. They talked for maybe 5 minutes. Then James shook his head, firm, final. Kern's posture changed, got aggressive, pointing, gesturing. James didn't back down, just stood there, solid, more talking. Kern seemed to be making an offer, James refusing. Then Kern said something that made James go very still. Whatever it was, it hit hard. James turned, started walking back to the cabin. Kern called after him. James didn't stop, didn't look back. He came inside, closed the door, leaned against it. "What did he say?" Abram asked. James was quiet for a long moment. Then, "He offered me a partnership." "What?" "Said the mine's profitable. Said he needs someone he can trust to run operations, someone with military discipline. Offered me a full share, 20% of profits." "And you said no?" "Of course I said no." "What else?" Abram pressed. "There's something else. I can see it on your face." James looked at Ellie. "He said if I don't accept, he'll make sure everyone in the territory knows I let Sarah Ann Whitmore burn to death. He's got documentation, service records, witness statements. He'll destroy my reputation, make sure I'm known as the coward who chose orders over a girl's life." Ellie stood. "He's bluffing." "He's not. He showed me a letter. From Margaret Whitmore, Sarah Ann's mother. She wrote to him after the war, asked why her daughter was left to die. Asked why no one saved her. What did he tell her? He told her I was following orders, that it wasn't my fault, that I was a good soldier. But he kept the letter, as leverage, in case I ever became a problem." The words settled over the room like ash. "So he's been planning this for 12 years, Doc said quietly, "waiting to use it. Not planning, just keeping options open. That's how he works. Everything's calculated. Everything's insurance against future problems." Abram paced. "It doesn't matter. Even if he releases the letter, it doesn't change what happened here. It doesn't change that he's trafficking people." "Doesn't it?" James said. "Who's going to believe a coward and a criminal over a successful businessman with political connections? He wins either way. Either I accept his offer and become complicit, or I refuse and he destroys any credibility I might have." "Then we make sure the truth comes out," I said. "We make sure people know what he's really doing. How we're pinned down. Federal marshal's still days away. We're running out of food-water ammunition. He just has to wait us out." Ellie walked over to James, stood in front of him. "You told me earlier that after this is over we'd talk, that we'd figure out what comes next. You planning to keep that promise? If I can. Then you need to survive this, which means we need a plan, a real plan, not just holding out and hoping." She was right. We all knew it. "What are you thinking?" Abram asked her. "I'm thinking we stop being defensive. We go on offense. Against 5 men who are dug in and waiting for us. against one man who thinks he's already won, who thinks we're beaten, who's getting complacent. James looked at her with something like admiration. You want to attack Kern directly. I want to take away his advantage. He's comfortable out there, safe behind his rocks, letting his men do the work. We change that. We make him uncomfortable. We make him scared. How? She smiled, grim. We burn him out. The plan. It was risky, maybe suicidal, but it was better than waiting to die. Here's what we came up with. Night had to fall first. Couldn't do it in daylight, too exposed. We'd wait until dark, then Ellie and I would circle around, wide arc, come up behind Kern's position from the opposite side. We'd set fires, multiple locations, create chaos, make them think they were surrounded. While they were distracted, James and Abram would attack from the front, push hard, make Kern retreat. The goal wasn't to kill everyone, just to break their position, force them to fall back, give us room to breathe. Then when the federal marshal arrived, we'd have testimony, evidence, witnesses. It was thin, full of holes, depended on everything going right, but it was better than nothing. I should be the one going with Red, James said, not Ellie. You're the best shot, Ellie countered. You need to be here, providing cover fire. She's right, Abram said. Red knows the terrain. Ellie's smaller, faster, quieter. They've got the best chance of getting into position without being seen. James didn't like it, but he accepted it. We spent the afternoon preparing, making torches, filling bottles with lamp oil, planning the routes. Doc would stay in the cabin, provide medical support, fire from the windows when needed. It wasn't much, but it was all we had. Afternoon. The waiting. The hours crawled by. We ate what little food we had left, dried meat, stale bread, water from the well that might be our last drink. Nobody talked much, just sat, thought, prepared mentally for what was coming. Around 4 o'clock, James pulled me aside. Red, if this goes wrong, if Ellie and I don't make it back, you take Doc and you run. You get to the federal marshal. You tell him everything. I'm not running. I'm not asking. I'm ordering. Someone has to survive to tell the story, has to make sure Kern doesn't win even if he kills us all. James, promise me. I looked at him, saw he was serious, saw this was important to him. I promise. He nodded, relaxed slightly. Thank you. Around 5, Abram pulled out an old photograph, creased, worn. What's that? I asked. My wife died 3 years ago, cholera. I'd never heard him mention a wife. I'm sorry. She made me promise something before she died, made me promise I'd keep fighting for what's right, even when it's hard, even when it costs me. You've kept that promise. Trying to, but sometimes I wonder if it's worth it, if fighting makes any difference. It does. You being here makes a difference. To Ellie, to James, to all of us. He looked at the photograph. Hope so. Hope she'd be proud. I think she would be. Around 6, the sun started to set, painting the sky orange and red. Ellie came and sat next to me on the floor. You scared? She asked. Terrified. Good. Me too. Means we're not stupid. We sat in silence for a while. Then she said, if we don't make it back, if something happens, tell James something for me. Tell him yourself when we get back. Just in case, tell him he gave me something I didn't think I'd ever have again. What's that? Hope. The belief that people can be good, that second chances exist, that maybe I'm worth saving. Ellie, you don't need James to make you worth saving. You already are. She smiled, sad. Maybe, but he made me believe it. That's the gift. Dusk. The flashback. As we waited for full darkness, James started talking. Not to anyone in particular, just talking. Like he needed to get the words out. Abram and I met in Tennessee, 1863, Battle of Chattanooga. I was a lieutenant. He was a sergeant. We got separated from our unit during a night assault, just the two of us. Enemy territory, no supplies, no map, just each other. Abram got shot, rifle ball in the shoulder. Went clean through, but he was bleeding bad, could barely walk. I had a choice. Leave him. Move faster. Better chance of getting back to Union lines alive, or stay with him. Slow down. Risk both of us dying. I stayed. Took us 3 days to get back, 3 days of hiding, moving at night, avoiding patrols, Abram delirious from fever, me carrying him half the time. When we finally made it back, the medic said another day and he'd have died from infection. My commanding officer commended me, said I showed loyalty, courage, the mark of a true soldier. That commanding officer was Silas Kern. He told me I'd made the right choice, that a soldier never leaves his brothers behind, that loyalty to your men is the highest virtue. Then 2 years later he ordered me to leave Sarah Ann and pursue those scouts, ordered me to value the mission over a life. When I hesitated, he said, "Captain, you can't save everyone. Sometimes you have to choose, and a good soldier chooses the mission." I've spent 12 years trying to understand the difference between staying with Abram and leaving Sarah Ann, between loyalty to men in your command and duty to strangers. Still haven't figured it out. But I know this, I made the wrong choice in Willow Springs. Right or wrong by military logic, it was wrong by human logic. And I'm done following military logic. Abram had been listening. Now he spoke. "Jim, you know why you stayed with me in Chattanooga? Because you were my friend. Because you could see me. I was right there. Real. Human. Not an abstract concept, not a strategic objective. A person you knew, cared about. Sarah Ann was abstract to you. A voice in a burning building. No face, no history, no connection. Just a problem in the path of your mission. That's the difference. Not right or wrong, just human nature. We save who we can see, who we know. Your mistake wasn't choosing the mission. It was not making Sarah Ann real before you made the choice. Not stopping to think about who she was, what she meant to someone. You've learned that now. You see Ellie, you know her, she's real to you. That's growth. That's redemption. James was quiet. Then, "Thank you, brother." Always. Full dark, moving out. The night was clear, stars bright, no moon yet. Good for moving unseen. Ellie and I gathered our supplies. Torches wrapped in oiled cloth, matches, a knife each, no guns, too noisy. James pulled Ellie aside, spoke quietly. I couldn't hear what he said. But when she came back, there were tears in her eyes. "Ready?" I asked. "Ready." We slipped out the back, moved quiet through the brush. The night was cool, smelled like rain-washed earth and pine. We could see Kern's campfires, 3 of them, his men positioned in a rough perimeter. We circled wide, took the long way, stayed low, moved slow. It took us nearly an hour to get into position. We split up. I went left, she went right, each of us carrying half the torches. The plan was simple: wait for the signal, then light everything at once. The signal would be gunfire from the cabin, James and Abram starting their attack. I crouched behind a cluster of rocks, maybe 40 yards from the nearest campfire, could see 2 of Kern's men, sitting, talking low, tired, waited. The night was quiet, just insects, wind in the grass, my own breathing. Then gunfire. I lit the first torch, threw it. It landed in dry brush, caught immediately, lit the second, threw it toward a different position. Third, fourth, 5 in total. Fires blooming in the darkness like flowers. Shouts from Kern's men. Confusion. Panic. I heard Ellie's fires starting on the other side. Saw the glow. More shouts. Men running. Then James and Abram opened up from the cabin. Rifles cracking. Muzzle flashes. Chaos. I started moving, circling back toward the cabin, staying low. That's when I heard the scream. Ellie. The capture. I ran toward the sound. Forgot caution, forgot stealth, just ran. Found her struggling with one of Kern's men. He had her by the arm. She was fighting, kicking, clawing. But he was bigger, stronger. I didn't think, just charged. Hit him low. Tackle. We went down together. He rolled, came up swinging, caught me in the jaw. Stars exploded. I swung back, missed. He hit me again. Ribs, knocked the wind out of me. Then Ellie was there, knife in hand. She drove it into his shoulder. He screamed, "Let go of me," grabbed at the knife. We ran. Behind us more shouts. They'd found us. We ran toward the cabin, toward safety, gunfire, bullets kicking up dirt around our feet. 50 yards, 40, 30, almost there. Then Ellie went down. I skidded to a stop. Ellie. My ankle, I twisted it. I grabbed her, tried to lift her. Too heavy, too slow. They were coming. I could hear them, maybe 10 seconds behind us. "Leave me," she said. "No." "Red, you have to." Then James was there, appeared out of the darkness like a ghost, rifle in hand. He fired past us, once, twice, 3 times. The pursuing men hit the dirt. James grabbed Ellie, lifted her, started running. I followed. We made it to the cabin, tumbled inside. Abram slammed the door. "Everyone okay?" "Ellie's ankle," I gasped. Doc was already moving, examining it. "Sprained, not broken. She'll be fine." Outside the fires were dying down. Kern's men had regrouped, but we'd hurt them, scattered them, broken their positions. Small victory, but victory nonetheless. Midnight. Kern's rage. Around midnight, Kern started shouting again. "Coulter, you think that changes anything? You think a few fires matter? I've still got men. I've still got ammunition. I've still got time." James didn't respond. "You're just delaying the inevitable, making it worse for yourself. When I finally take that cabin, when I finally get my hands on you, I'm going to make you watch while I take the girl back. Going to make you watch while I brand her again. Going to make sure you know you failed. Again." Still no response from James. "Say something. Show me you're still alive in there." Abram leaned close to James. "Don't let him bait you." But James stood, walked to the door, opened it, stood there, silhouetted against the lamplight from inside. "Silas," he called, "you want to talk about failure? Let's talk about yours." Silence from outside. "You failed to hold the bridge at Willow Springs. I saved it. You failed to pursue those scouts effectively. I caught them. Every commendation you earned in that war was built on the backs of men like me who actually did the work. That's not true, isn't it? You were a mediocre officer who got promoted because you said the right things to the right people. You weren't a leader, you were a politician in uniform. I commanded respect. You commanded fear. Men followed you because they were afraid of you, not because they believed in you, not because you inspired them, because you were a bully with rank. And yet you still followed my orders, still chose the mission over that girl, still proved you were just like me." "No," James's voice cracked. "I was nothing like you. I felt guilt. I felt shame. I've spent 12 years trying to make it right. You've spent 12 years exploiting people, using them, branding them like cattle. We are nothing alike." "We're exactly alike. We both understand that some lives matter more than others. That's all I'm doing at the mine. Understanding hierarchy, the strong over the weak, the valuable over the worthless. Ellie's not worthless. She's a laborer who broke her contract. She's property that ran, and I'm taking her back. No, you're not. Then you'll die, and she'll watch, and when you're dead I'll take her anyway, and she'll know you died for nothing." James stood there for a long moment, then spoke. Quiet, but it carried. "The federal marshal's on his way. You know that, right? Sheriff Hale sent for him days ago. He's coming, with warrants, with authority, with backup." Silence. "Even if you kill us all," James continued, "even if you take Ellie back, even if you burn this cabin to ash, he's still coming, and when he gets here he's going to find bodies, evidence. witnesses in town who've heard your men talking. You can't kill everyone, Silas. You can't silence everyone. Your empire's done. You're bluffing. Am I? Ask yourself, would Sheriff Hale come all this way just to help an old friend? Or did he come because he knew he could bring you down? A man with political ambitions needs a big case. Taking down a trafficking operation, that's big. That's career-making. You think he'd pass that up? More silence. Then Kern's voice, less certain. Even if a marshal's coming, he'll have to prove something, and all the evidence is at my mine, which he doesn't know the location of. Actually, Abram called from inside, I've got the location. Ellie told me, drew me a map. That's in the report I sent to the federal marshal, along with her full testimony, names, dates, everything. I looked at Abram, whispered, Is that true? He nodded. Took her statement 2 days ago, sent it with a second rider, insurance. Outside we heard Kern and his men arguing, couldn't make out words, but the tone was clear, panic, disagreement, then horses, moving away. James stepped outside, looked toward where Kern's campfires had been. Empty. They were gone. The aftermath. We didn't celebrate, didn't relax, just sat there in shocked silence. Did they really leave? Ellie asked. For now, Abram said. But they'll be back. Kern's not done. He's regrouping, planning his next move. What next move? Doc asked. He's beat. He's desperate. That's different. Desperate men are unpredictable. James came back inside, closed the door. We need to prepare for another attack. Could be tonight, could be tomorrow, but it's coming. Or, I said, he could be running, cutting his losses, abandoning the mine and disappearing. You don't know Silas Kern, James said. He doesn't run, he doesn't abandon, he wins or he burns everything down trying. We took up watch positions again, exhausted, running on fumes, but alive, all of us, still alive. Around 2 a.m. I was on watch with Ellie. Her ankle was bandaged, propped up, but she insisted on sitting watch. Thank you, she said quietly. For what? For coming back for me. When that man grabbed me, you could have kept running. Wasn't going to leave you. Why not? You barely know me. Same reason James is here. Same reason Doc and Abram are here. Because it's right. Because you deserve people who won't leave you behind. She was quiet. Then, I've spent so long thinking I was worthless. That what happened at the mine was somehow my fault. That I deserved it for being stupid enough to sign that contract. That's not true. I know, intellectually. But knowing and believing are different things. What changed? James. Watching him fight for me. Watching him choose me over his safety, over his life. It made me think maybe I am worth fighting for. Maybe I do matter. You do. I'm starting to believe it. We sat in silence. Then she said, when this is over, if we survive, I'm going back to Santa Fe, to my father. I'm going to tell him everything, help him shut down every operation like Kern's in the territory. That's dangerous. I know, but it matters. All those people still trapped at the mine, all the people who might get trapped in the future. Someone has to fight for them. Sounds like you found your purpose. Maybe. Or maybe I've just found something worth dying for besides survival. Dawn. The rider returns. Morning came quiet. Too quiet. We watched the sunrise. Beautiful. Red and orange painting the hills. No sign of Kern. No sign of his men. Just emptiness. Something's wrong, Abram said. They should have attacked by now, or sent someone to negotiate. Something. Maybe they gave up, Doc suggested. Or maybe they're planning something worse. Around 8 o'clock we saw the rider. Coming from the north. Single horse, moving fast. We grabbed weapons, took positions. The rider got closer. I could see him now. Not one of Kern's men. Too old. too weathered. He was wearing a badge. "Federal Marshal," Abram said, tension leaving his voice. "That's Marshal Clayton. Good man. We served together during the war." The rider pulled up, dismounted. Tall man, maybe 60, gray beard, eyes that missed nothing. "Abram," he called. "You in there?" "I am." "Come on in, Marshal." Clayton tied his horse, walked to the cabin, saw the bullet holes, the scorch marks, the blood in the dirt. "Looks like I missed the party." "Just the first act," Abram said. "Main event might still be coming." They shook hands, old friends reuniting. "Got your message," Clayton said. "And the follow-up with the girl's testimony. Rode straight here, brought 2 deputies with me. They're about an hour behind with supplies and ammunition." "You believe us?" Ellie asked. "About the mine?" Clayton looked at her, took in the bandaged arm, the fear in her eyes, the strength underneath it. "I believe you, miss, and I'm here to help. Now where's this Silas Kern I keep hearing about?" "That's the question," James said. "He was here last night, attacked us, then pulled back around midnight. Haven't seen him since." "He's not running," Clayton said. "Man like that doesn't run. He's planning something big, something final." "Like what?" "Like hitting the mine, destroying evidence, killing witnesses, making it impossible to prove anything." We all looked at each other. "How far is the mine from here?" Clayton asked. "Half-day's ride," Ellie said. "Through the hills. Hard to find if you don't know the way." "Can you lead us there?" "Yes, but if Kern's there already, then we better move fast." Clayton looked at all of us. "I need volunteers. This isn't going to be safe. We're going into hostile territory, against armed men. Some of you might die." "I'm going," James said immediately. "Me too," Abram added. I stood. "And me," Doc spoke up. "I'll come. You'll need medical support." Ellie stood, winced as her ankle took weight. "And I'm going. They need to see me, need to see I survived, need to see there's hope." Clayton nodded. "All right then. We rest for 1 hour, eat, prepare, then we ride." He looked at James. "You're Coulter, the one who was Kern's captain." "I am." "Good. You know how he thinks. That'll help." "I know how he used to think. He's changed, gotten worse." "Then we better be ready for anything." Preparation for the final ride. We spent the hour preparing. Clayton's deputies arrived. Young men, capable, armed with rifles and grim determination. We loaded up. Ammunition, water, food for a day's ride. James pulled me aside one more time. "Red, you don't have to do this. You've done enough. I'm seeing this through. You could die. So could you. So could all of us. But some things are worth dying for." He clasped my shoulder. "You're a good man. Better than you know. Learned from the best." We mounted up. 8 of us total. Clayton, his 2 deputies, Abram, James, Doc, Ellie, and me. Against how many we didn't know. Kern might have 20 men at the mine, might have 50. But we were going anyway. Because it was right. Because people were suffering. Because sometimes you have to stand even when the odds are impossible. We rode out just after noon, heading north into the hills, into whatever hell Kern had waiting. The ride. The terrain got rougher as we climbed, pine trees giving way to scrub brush, rock formations like broken teeth. Ellie led us, despite her injured ankle, despite her fear. She rode in front with Clayton, pointing out landmarks, correcting our course. "How'd you find this place if it's so remote?" Clayton asked her. "The recruiter had a map. He burned it after we arrived, but I memorized it, just in case." Turns out, just in case was smart. "You're a survivor," he said. Simple, respectful. I'm trying to be. We rode for 3 hours. The sun moved west. Shadows lengthened. Around 4 o'clock, Ellie held up her hand. "Stop." We stopped. "What is it?" Clayton asked. "We're close. Maybe a mile. If we go much further, Sentries will see us." Sentries? I thought Kern was at the cabin. He was. But he'd have left guards. The mine's too valuable, too important. He wouldn't leave it completely undefended. Clayton thought. "All right. We dismount here. Move in on foot. Quiet. If there are guards, we neutralize them quietly. No gunfire unless absolutely necessary." We tied the horses, moved forward on foot. The land rose. Rocky outcroppings, places to hide, places to be ambushed. Then we saw it. The mine, set in a natural valley between two ridges. Barracks, storage buildings, the mine entrance itself, a rough wooden tower for the pulley system, and people, workers, maybe 40 of them, moving slow, exhausted, guards watching them, rifles ready. "Sweet Jesus," one of the deputies whispered. "Yeah," Clayton said. "This is real. This is happening." We crouched behind rocks, watching, counting guards, looking for Kern. Then we saw him, standing outside the largest building, talking to 3 men, pointing, gesturing. Even from this distance I could see his face, could see the cold calculation in his eyes. He was planning something. James saw it too. He's going to destroy it. He's going to kill the workers and burn the mine. Eliminate all evidence. "When?" Abram asked. "Soon. Maybe tonight. Maybe tomorrow. But soon." Clayton looked at the setup. "We can't take them head on. Too many guards. Too much open ground." "Then we don't take them head on," Ellie said. "We free the workers first. Give them weapons. Let them fight for themselves." "How do we free them without alerting the guards?" "We create a distraction, draw the guards to one side. While they're distracted, we open the barracks, arm the workers. Then we have numbers." It was risky, insane even, but it was all we had. "I like it," Clayton said. "What kind of distraction?" James smiled. Grim. Me. The distraction. Here was the plan. James would walk into the camp. Alone, unarmed, hands visible. He'd challenge Kern directly. Draw his attention. Draw the guards' attention. While that was happening, Abram and the deputies would circle around. Open the barracks, free the workers, arm them with whatever they could find. Clayton and I would provide cover, take out guards if needed. Ellie and Doc would stay back. Doc for medical. Ellie because her ankle couldn't take combat. It was suicide for James. We all knew it. But he insisted. "It has to be me. I'm the one Kern wants. I'm the one he'll focus on. I'm the one who can keep his attention long enough for this to work." "Jim," Abram started. "No arguments. This is the play. We all know it." He stood, started walking toward the camp. We watched him go. A lone figure walking into the enemy's stronghold. Brave or foolish. Hard to say which. Maybe both. He got about 50 yards before someone spotted him. Shout. Guards running. Rifles raised. James kept walking, hands up, showing he was unarmed. They surrounded him. 8 men, guns pointed. Then Kern appeared, walked through the circle, stood in front of James. We couldn't hear what they said. Too far, but we could see. Kern talking, James responding, Kern gesturing, James standing firm. Then Kern hit him, open hand, across the face, hard enough to stagger James. James recovered, stood straight, didn't fight back. Kern hit him again. "Now," Clayton whispered. Abram and the deputies moved, silent, fast, circling toward the barracks. I watched Kern hit James a 3rd time, watched James take it, absorbing the punishment, buying time with his body. The guards were all focused on the confrontation, weren't watching the perimeter, weren't watching the barracks. Abram reached the door, picked the lock, pulled it open. Workers inside, confused, scared. He gestured, quiet, urgent. "Come with me." They hesitated, then started coming out. Slow at first, then faster. 40 people, streaming out of the barracks, moving toward the equipment sheds where tools could be weapons. One of the guards turned, saw them, started to shout. Clayton fired. The guard dropped. All hell broke loose. The battle gunfire shattered the evening quiet. The guard Clayton had shot went down. His rifle clattered on the rocks. And suddenly everyone was moving. Workers scattered, some running for cover, some running for the equipment sheds like Abram had told them, some just running. Kern's guards started shooting, wild at first, panicked. They didn't know where the attack was coming from. James dove to the ground, rolled toward the nearest building, bullets chewing up the dirt where he'd been standing. Clayton and I opened fire from our position, aimed shots, controlled, trying to keep the guards pinned, trying to buy time for the workers to arm themselves. Abram and the deputies were in the thick of it, moving among the workers, handing out picks, shovels, lengths of pipe, anything that could be a weapon. Some of the workers took them, turned toward their captors, years of anger and pain in their faces. Others just kept running, too scared, too broken, just wanted to escape. I didn't blame them. A guard ran past my position, didn't see me. I let him go. Wasn't here to kill everyone, just here to stop Kern. More gunfire. One of the deputies went down, clutching his leg. Doc ran to him, pulled him to cover, started working on the wound. The workers who'd armed themselves were advancing now, 40 people who'd been slaves, who'd been beaten and branded and broken, finally fighting back. It wasn't pretty, wasn't organized, just rage and desperation. But it was effective. Guards started falling back, outnumbered, outflanked. Some threw down their weapons, raised their hands, others ran. In the chaos I'd lost sight of James. Then I saw him, standing in the center of the compound, facing Kern. Everyone else was fighting, running, dying, but those two just stood there, 20 feet apart, staring at each other. The confrontation. I moved closer, staying low, staying behind cover, got close enough to hear. "You always were stubborn," Kern was saying, "even in the war, always questioning, always thinking you knew better." "I did know better," James replied. "I knew leaving Sarah Ann was wrong, knew it in my gut, but I followed your order anyway, because I was a good soldier, and good soldiers don't question. And look where questioning got you. 12 years alone, 12 years running. Was it worth it?" "Yes." The certainty in James's voice made Kern pause. "Yes," Kern repeated. "You're telling me 12 years of isolation and guilt were worth it." "They taught me something you never learned. That duty without conscience is just obedience, and obedience to evil makes you complicit in evil." "I'm not evil, I'm practical." "You brand people, you enslave them, you justify it with paperwork and profit margins. That's not practical, that's monstrous." Kern's hand moved toward his belt, toward a pistol holstered there. "I wouldn't," James said quietly. "You're unarmed. Look around." Kern looked, saw the workers, saw Clayton and the deputies, saw Abram, all with weapons, all pointed in his general direction. His hand stopped moving. "This is over, Silas," James said. "Your operation's done. Your workers are free. Federal marshals here with warrants. It's finished. Nothing's finished until I say it is. You don't get to say any more. You don't get to decide who's valuable and who's worthless. You don't get to play God with people's lives. I built this. I created something from nothing. I brought order to chaos. You brought suffering. You brought pain. You brought death. That's not creation. That's destruction wearing a mask." Kern's face twisted, rage and frustration and something that might have been fear. "You self-righteous fool. You think stopping me changes anything? There are a dozen operations like this across the territory, 2 dozen, 100. You think one marshal can stop them all? No, but he can stop you, and that's a start. A start to what? Justice." Kern laughed, bitter, harsh. "There's no justice, just power, and I still have more power than you." "Do you?" Kern looked around again, at the workers standing defiant, at the guards who'd surrendered, at the buildings that held evidence of his crimes, at the empire collapsing around him. "You can't prove anything," he said, but his voice shook. "We have Ellie's testimony. We have the workers' testimony. We have your records. Your contracts, your ledgers, everything. I have lawyers, I have judges. Not federal judges, not federal marshals. You're done, Silas. For a long moment, Kern just stood there, breathing hard, face red. Then his hand moved. Fast. Grabbed the pistol, brought it up, aimed at James. I fired. So did Clayton. So did Abram. 3 shots, almost simultaneous. Kern went down. The pistol fell from his hand. He clutched his chest, blood spreading. James walked over, stood looking down at him. You could have walked away, James said quietly. Could have surrendered, gone to trial, maybe gotten 20 years instead of a death sentence. But you couldn't let go. Couldn't accept defeat. Kern coughed, blood on his lips. Neither could you. Sarah Ann, 12 years of guilt. Neither of us could let go. No. I learned to carry it. That's different. Is it? Kern's breathing was getting shallow. We're the same, you and I. Both haunted. Both broken. Both trying to make the world fit our vision of what it should be. We're nothing alike. Keep telling yourself that. Kern took one more breath, then went still. James stood there for a moment, looking down at the body of his former commander, the man who'd shaped his military career, who'd given the order that haunted him for 12 years. Then he turned away, walked toward where Ellie was standing. She was leaning on Doc, ankle still hurt, but she was upright, watching. When James reached her, she didn't say anything, just looked at him. He nodded, small, weary. She nodded back, understanding passing between them without words. The aftermath. The next few hours were a blur. Clayton and his deputies rounded up the guards who'd surrendered. About 6 of them. The rest had run or were dead. The workers gathered in the center of the compound. 43 souls, men and women, different ages, different backgrounds, all bearing the marks of captivity. Clayton addressed them. You're free, all of you, free to go, free to stay, free to testify if you're willing, but free. Some of them cried. Some just stood there in shock. Some started gathering belongings immediately, couldn't get away fast enough. But about 20 stayed, said they'd testify, said they wanted to see justice done. Ellie talked to them, one by one, shared her story, listened to theirs. I watched her transform, from victim to survivor to advocate, right there in front of my eyes. Doc treated the wounded, the deputy who'd been shot, 3 of the workers who'd been injured in the fighting, 1 guard who'd caught a bullet in the shoulder. Abram organized the evidence, ledgers, contracts, letters, everything that proved what Kern had been doing. James helped bury the dead. 3 guards, 2 workers who'd been killed in the crossfire. He dug each grave himself, insisted on it, said every death was on him because he'd started this confrontation. Clayton tried to tell him that wasn't true, that the deaths were on Kern, on the system, on the corruption that allowed places like this to exist. But James kept digging. I think he needed to. Needed the physical labor. Needed to mark each death with his own hands. Around midnight we finally stopped working, made camp, posted guards, tried to rest. I sat with my back against a building, rifle in my lap, too tired to sleep. Ellie came and sat beside me, quiet for a while. Then, thank you for everything. You already thanked me. I know, but I mean it. You didn't have to be here, didn't have to risk your life, but you did. Seemed like the right thing. It was the right thing, and I won't forget it. She stood, walked over to where James was sitting alone, sat down beside him. I watched them talk, couldn't hear the words, but I could see. She reached out, touched his hand. He didn't pull away. They sat there until dawn, 2 broken people finding comfort in shared silence. And I thought maybe that's what healing looks like. Not dramatic, not sudden, just 2 people sitting together in the dark, not alone anymore. 3 days later. We stayed at the mine for 3 days, documenting everything, taking statements, making sure every piece of evidence was preserved. Clayton sent one of his deputies back to Tucson with the initial report, requesting more marshals, more support. This was bigger than one operation. This was the start of something. The workers started leaving on the second day, in pairs and small groups, heading to different towns, different territories, different lives. Some asked for money, for help getting home. Clayton gave what he could. The rest of us chipped in. By the third day, only a dozen workers remained. The ones who'd committed to testifying, the ones who wanted to see this through. Ellie was one of them. "You could go," James told her. "You could go back to Santa Fe, back to your father. Put this behind you." "I will, eventually. But not yet. Not until I've done what I can to make sure this doesn't happen to others. It might take months. It might take the trial, the investigation." "I know. You've already been through so much. Which is exactly why I need to do this. So it means something. So those months at the mine weren't just suffering, they were the price of stopping a monster." James nodded, didn't argue further. That afternoon we started the ride back. The whole group. 8 of us, plus 12 workers. Moving slow. Some were still weak, still recovering. We made camp that night halfway back to the cabin. Around the fire the workers told their stories, where they'd come from, how they'd been recruited, what they'd endured. Each story was different. Each story was the same. Promises of honest work, contracts they couldn't read, debt they couldn't pay, violence to keep them compliant. Clayton wrote it all down, every detail, building a case that couldn't be ignored, couldn't be buried. Abram sat next to him. "This is going to be big, territorial, maybe national." "I know. You ready for that?" "No. But it needs to happen anyway." Around 2 in the morning I woke for my watch shift, found James already up, staring at the stars. "Couldn't sleep?" I asked. "Haven't slept well in 12 years. Not about to start now." "You did good. At the mine, stopping Kern, freeing those people." "Did I? 3 people died. More were wounded. And for what one mine shut down when there are dozens more? For Ellie. For those 43 workers. For justice, even if it's small justice." He was quiet. Then, "You know what Kern said? Before he died, he said we were the same. Both broken. Both trying to make the world fit our vision. You're nothing like him." "Aren't I? I made choices that got people killed. So did he. I put my mission first. So did he. The only difference is I feel guilty about it." "No. The difference is you learned. You changed. You chose differently when given another chance. Kern never did. Never would have." James looked at me. "You really believe that?" "I do. And so does Ellie. So does Abram. So does everyone here who sees what you've done, what you've become." He nodded slowly. "Maybe. But it doesn't bring Sarah Ann back." "No. But it honors her memory. Shows her death wasn't meaningless. That it taught you something important." "What's that?" "That people matter more than orders. That conscience matters more than duty. That redemption isn't about erasing the past. It's about choosing better in the present." He smiled. Sad, but real. "When'd you get so wise, Red?" "Must be the company I keep." The return. We reached the cabin 2 days later. It looked different somehow. Same building, same walls, same porch. But it felt different. Like it had transformed from a place of isolation to a place of beginning. The workers rested, ate, recovered. Clayton started organizing transport to Tucson, to federal court, to the start of the legal process. James and Ellie walked out to where she'd first collapsed 6 weeks ago. I watched from the porch, gave them privacy. But I could see them, saw her point to where she'd fallen, saw him nod, saw them talk for a long time. When they came back, Ellie's eyes were red, but she was smiling. "What did you tell her?" I asked James later. "The truth, about Sarah Ann, about the choice I made, about the guilt I've carried, and And she told me something Margaret Whitmore said once, that Sarah Ann believed in second chances, believed people could change, would have wanted me to forgive myself. You believe that? I'm trying to. 1 week later, the federal marshals arrived, 5 of them, with wagons, supplies, official paperwork. They took over the investigation, took statements from everyone, documented the evidence. Clayton briefed them, handed over everything he'd collected. The lead marshal was an older man, gray hair, stern face, but kind eyes. He listened to Ellie's full testimony, 3 hours of detailed account, every moment at the mine, every cruelty, every escape attempt. When she finished, he was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "Miss Whitmore, you're one of the bravest people I've ever met. What you survived, what you're doing now, it matters. It'll help a lot of people." Will it? Will this actually change anything? It already has. We've shut down Kern's operation. We're investigating his political connections. 3 territorial judges are under scrutiny. 2 governors' appointees have resigned rather than face questioning. You started something. I didn't start it. I just survived it. That's how all change starts. One person surviving, one person speaking up, one person refusing to be silent. Ellie nodded, but she looked exhausted, the weight of it all pressing down. James saw it too. "Marshal, can we continue this tomorrow? She needs rest." "Of course. We've got plenty of time." That night Doc examined Ellie, said she was physically healing well, but emotionally drained, needed time, needed peace. "Can I give you some advice?" Doc asked her. "Please. When this is done, when the trial's over, when you've testified and done everything you can do, go home, go to your father, let yourself be someone's daughter again instead of someone's witness. Let yourself heal." "What if I can't? What if the mine broke something in me that won't heal?" "Then you live with it, like James lives with Sarah Ann, like we all live with our scars, but you don't have to live with it alone." She looked at James. He was outside, chopping wood, same methodical rhythm he'd had when she first arrived. "He's going to leave, isn't he?" she said quietly. "When this is over, he's going to go back to being alone." "I don't know," Doc said, "but maybe you should ask him." The question. She asked him the next evening. They were sitting on the porch, the sun setting, painting everything gold. "What happens after?" she said. "After what? After the trial. After I testify. After all this is done. What happens to you?" James was quiet. Then, "I don't know. Haven't thought that far." "Will you go back to being alone?" "Maybe. It's what I know. What I'm good at." "Is it what you want?" He looked at her, really looked. "No, but wanting and deserving are different things. Who says you don't deserve connection? Happiness, a life beyond guilt. 12 years of evidence says I don't. 12 years of punishment doesn't equal redemption, James. It just equals suffering. And Sarah Ann wouldn't want you to suffer. You said so yourself." "I know. But knowing and believing are different things. I know. I've been telling myself the same thing about being worthless, about deserving what happened at the mine. But you made me believe I was wrong, that I do have value, that I do deserve better." She reached over, took his hand. "So I'm telling you the same thing. You have value. You deserve better. And you don't have to be alone unless you choose to be. Ellie, I'm not asking you to marry me. I'm not asking you to love me. I'm just asking you to consider that maybe isolation isn't the only option, that maybe there's a different way forward." James held her hand, didn't let go. "What would that look like?" "I don't know. Maybe we figure it out together. Maybe you come to Santa Fe sometimes. Maybe I come here. Maybe we're friends who understand each other. Maybe we're more. Maybe we just exist in each other's lives and see what happens. No promises. No promises. Just possibility." He smiled, small, but real. I think I can do possibility. Good, because I've had enough of certainty. Certainty got me trapped in a mine. I'll take possibility any day. They sat there until the stars came out, holding hands, not talking, just being. And I thought that's love. Not the dramatic kind from songs and stories, but the real kind. The quiet kind. The kind that says, I see your broken parts, and I'm not afraid. The trial. The trial happened in Tucson. 6 weeks after we'd shut down the mine. All of us went. James, Abram, Doc, me, Ellie. The 12 workers who'd stayed to testify. It lasted 3 weeks. Testimony after testimony. Evidence after evidence. The prosecutors laid out everything. The contracts, the debt schemes, the violence, the branding. They brought in the workers, one by one, let them tell their stories. Ellie testified for 2 days. Calm, clear, devastating. The defense tried to attack her credibility, called her a criminal, a runaway, a liar. But she didn't break, just kept telling the truth. James testified too, about Kern, about their history, about the man he'd known in the war versus the monster he'd become. The defense tried to use it against him, tried to paint him as bitter, as taking revenge for an old grudge. But Clayton's testimony destroyed that, showed the pattern, showed this wasn't personal vendetta, this was justice. The jury deliberated for 6 hours, found the remaining guards guilty. Conspiracy to enslave, assault, unlawful imprisonment. They were sentenced to 20 years. Hard labor. But Kern was dead. Couldn't be tried. Couldn't be punished. Some people said that was justice, that he got what he deserved. Others said he escaped, got out too easy. I didn't know which was true. All I knew was it was over. 6 months later, I went back to the cabin in early spring. Hadn't seen James in months. He'd stayed in Tucson after the trial, helping Clayton with follow-up investigations, testifying in other cases. Turned out Kern's operation wasn't unique, wasn't even the biggest. There were a dozen others across the territory. But they were falling now, one by one, like dominoes. James's testimony was helping. His insight into how these operations worked, how they justified themselves, how they covered their tracks. He'd found a purpose, something beyond isolation, beyond guilt. When I rode up to the cabin, I half expected it to be empty, abandoned. But there was smoke from the chimney, a horse in the small corral, fresh wood stacked on the porch. James came out when he heard me approach, looked different, still weathered, still carrying weight, but lighter somehow. "Red," he said, genuine warmth in his voice. "James." We shook hands, sat on the porch. "How's the work going?" I asked. "Good. Hard, but good. We've shut down 4 more operations in the last 3 months, freed almost 200 people, and the territorial government's finally paying attention. New laws, new oversight. It's not enough, but it's something." "And you, how are you?" He thought about it. "Better, not perfect. Still have nightmares. Still think about Sarah Ann. But I'm doing something that matters, that helps, makes the guilt feel lighter, like maybe I'm making up for it, little by little." "You hear from Ellie?" He smiled, actual smile. "Yeah, she writes, every week, tells me about Santa Fe, about her father's work, about the cases they're building." "That all she tells you?" "Mostly. Sometimes she tells me about herself, her thoughts, her healing. She's doing well, seeing a doctor, someone who helps with the mental scars." "You seeing anyone like that?" "No, but I'm thinking about it. Ellie says it helps, says talking through the trauma makes it less powerful." "Might be worth trying." "Might be." We sat in comfortable silence. Then James said, "She invited me to visit Santa Fe next month." "You going?" "I think so. Haven't left the territory in months. Might be good to see something different." "Might be good to see her." He looked at me. "Yeah, that too." We spent the afternoon catching up. He told me about the investigations, the trials, the lives being rebuilt. I told him about the town, about Mary's saloon, about Patricia's gossip, about normal life continuing. As the sun set, I asked, "You think you'll ever move back here full-time?" "I don't know. This place was good for isolation, for hiding. But I'm not hiding anymore, so maybe I need somewhere different, somewhere that's about moving forward instead of running away." "Makes sense. But I'll keep it. The cabin, this land. Might be good to have a place to come back to when the work gets too heavy, when I need quiet. Open door policy. For you always." 1 year later. The letter came in spring, addressed to me at the general store. From Ellie. I opened it sitting on Mary's porch. "Dear Red, I'm writing with news. Good news, I hope. James proposed, and I said yes. We're getting married in Santa Fe this June. Small ceremony. Just family and close friends. And you're close friends. Closer than most. Please come. Please be there. You were there at the beginning of this story. You should be there for this chapter too. Also, James wants you to stand with him. Best man, they call it. He says you've been the best man he's known, that you stood with him when no one else would, that you deserve the honor. Please say yes. With gratitude and affection, Ellie Whitmore." I read it twice, then folded it carefully, rode up to the cabin, found James there, working on repairs to the roof. "Got a letter from Ellie," I called up. He climbed down. "Yeah. What did she say?" "Said you proposed." He smiled, shy, almost boyish. "I did, last week, in person. Couldn't do it in a letter. And she said yes, which still surprises me. Woman like that choosing a man like me. You're a good man, James." "I'm a better man than I was. That's close enough." "She asked me to stand with you. I asked her to ask you, will you?" "Course I will. Be honored." He clasped my shoulder. "Thank you. For everything. For that first day. For standing with me. For not giving up. You saved my life, Red. Maybe not physically, but in every way that matters. You saved your own life. I just bore witness. Then bear witness one more time. To me choosing happiness over guilt. To me choosing forward over backward. I'll be there." The wedding Santa Fe in June was beautiful. Warm but not scorching. Clear skies. Adobe buildings glowing in the sun. The ceremony was at Judge Whitmore's house. Small garden, maybe 20 people. Ellie wore a simple dress, white, her hair down, scars on her back hidden but not forgotten. James wore a suit. First time I'd seen him in one. He looked uncomfortable but determined. Judge Whitmore officiated, spoke about resilience, about second chances, about the courage to love after loss, about how his daughter had survived hell and come back stronger, how James had survived his own hell and learned to forgive himself, about how together they were building something new, not perfect, but real. When he pronounced them married, James kissed Ellie gentle, like she was precious, like he couldn't quite believe she was real. Everyone cheered. Small gathering, but loud joy. At the reception, Abram gave a toast. "I've known Jim Coulter for 20 years, served with him in war, watched him struggle with his demons, watched him run from himself. But I've also watched him stand when standing seemed impossible, watched him choose right over easy, watched him fight not just for himself, but for others. And now I'm watching him choose love, choose partnership, choose to stop punishing himself and start living. Jim, you deserve this. You deserve her. You deserve happiness. And Ellie, you're getting a good man, a flawed man, a scarred man, but a good man who will stand with you, who will fight for you, who will never walk away. To the bride and groom, may you heal together, may you build together, may you live together in peace and joy." We drank, we ate, we celebrated, and I watched James and Ellie dance, awkward and unpracticed, but smiling, happy. Two broken people choosing to be broken together instead of broken alone. And I thought, this is redemption, not erasing the past, not forgetting the pain, but choosing to live despite it, because of it, with it. That's the real victory. Arizona Territory, March 1917, the final entry. I'm finishing this story by the same lamplight I started it. The page is nearly full. My hand aches, but I need to write the ending. James and Ellie lived in Santa Fe for 15 years. He continued working with federal marshals, investigating illegal operations, freeing workers, testifying in trials. She worked with her father, built a practice focused on labor rights, on protecting the vulnerable, on making sure what happened to her didn't happen to others. Together they helped shut down 23 operations across 4 territories, freed over 800 people, changed laws, changed lives. In 1892 they moved back to the cabin, said they wanted quiet, wanted simplicity, wanted to live the life they'd fought so hard to make possible. They lived there for 5 years, happy years from what I saw. I visited often, sat on that porch, drank coffee, talked about everything and nothing. James died in 1897. Heart gave out in his sleep. He was 52, too young. But he died peacefully. Ellie holding his hand. No nightmares that night, just sleep. We buried him on the ridge, under the pine trees, facing west toward the sunset. Ellie spoke at the service. Small gathering. Me, Abram, Doc, a few others. She said, James spent 12 years punishing himself for one choice, and he spent the next 12 making up for it. Not because he had to, but because he chose to. He saved my life. But more than that, he showed me that surviving isn't enough, that we have to live, have to fight, have to choose meaning over despair. He wasn't perfect. He carried scars, carried regrets, but he carried them forward instead of letting them hold him back. That's his legacy, not the guilt, not the isolation, but the choice to stand when standing was hard, to love when love was scary, to believe in redemption when he didn't think he deserved it. I loved him. I'll always love him, and I'll spend the rest of my life honoring what he taught me. Ellie lived another 20 years, died in 1917, just a month ago, 72 years old, surrounded by friends, by the people she'd helped, by the legacy she'd built. I was there at the end. She asked me to write this down, asked me to tell the real story, not the legend, the truth. People need to know, she said, that redemption is possible, that change is possible, that no matter how far you've fallen or how broken you are, you can still choose better, can still build something good. So I wrote it down. Every detail I could remember, every conversation, every moment. And now I'm finishing it. Tomorrow I'll seal this journal, put it in the Historical Society. Let them decide if it's worth preserving. But I think it is. Not because it's dramatic, not because it's heroic, but because it's true. It's the story of a man who made a mistake and spent his life trying to make it right. It's the story of a woman who survived and refused to let survival be the end of her story. It's the story of ordinary people doing extraordinary things because it was the right thing to do. And it's the story of how I learned something important sitting on that porch all those years ago. We're all running from something. We're all carrying regrets. We're all broken in our own ways. But we don't have to stay broken. Don't have to stay isolated. Don't have to let our worst moments define us. We can choose differently. Choose better. Choose to stand even when standing is hard. James Coulter taught me that. Ellie Whitmore taught me that. And I'm writing it down so maybe someone else can learn it too. That's the story, the real one. Not about heroes and villains, but about people. Flawed, scared, determined people trying to do right in a world that makes it hard. I reckon that's all any of us can do. Choose right when we can, stand when we must, and forgive ourselves when we fall. Because redemption isn't a destination, it's a direction. James pointed himself toward it and walked that path every day until he died. That's enough. That's more than enough. That's everything. I set down the pen, flex my fingers, Look at the pages spread across the table. 40 years of memory made real, made permanent. Outside, the Arizona night is clear, stars bright. Same stars that looked down on that cabin, on James and Ellie, on all of us. I think about riding up there tomorrow. Haven't been in a few years, getting too old for long rides, but maybe one more time. One last visit to the place where it all happened, where a broken man stopped running, where a brutalized woman found her strength, where ordinary people became something more, not heroes, just humans, choosing right, standing together, refusing to let the darkness win. I close the journal, seal it. Tomorrow I'll take it to the Historical Society. Let them preserve it. Let them decide if it matters. But tonight, I'll sit here by lamplight, remember my friends, remember the choices we made, remember the lives we saved, and I'll be grateful for knowing them, for standing with them, for being part of something that mattered. The cabin's still there, you know, empty now, but it stands, weathered, strong. Sometimes I ride past it and I swear I can still smell coffee, still hear the silence that said more than words ever could, still see two people sitting on that porch, holding hands, watching the sunset, choosing possibility over certainty, choosing forward over backward, choosing together over alone. That's what I'll remember when this old body finally gives out, when I join James and Ellie and all the others who've gone on ahead. That's the story worth telling, worth preserving, worth passing on. Not the violence, not the suffering, not the guilt, but the healing, the standing, the choosing, the redemption. I reckon that's true for all of us. We're all just hermits and ghosts, running and hiding and carrying our regrets until we choose to stop running, choose to be seen, choose to let someone else carry part of the weight. That's when we start to live, really live. James Coulter taught me that, and I'm grateful.